This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, Mary. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you guys all doing?
We're doing great.
Good.
Awesome. I'm going to let Brooklyn do the treasurer's report. I'm just going to hang out in the background.
Okay. Think we're missing Dan.
Oh, there he is.
Sorry, I'm not late. All right.
You're fine.
Right on time.
Nicely on schedule. Yeah. Was that Renee?
I said precisely on schedule, but I said it in the like Bert from Mary Poppins voice. So anyway, never mind. You missed it.
Okay. Well, then we have most of the folks here. I make a motion to open the meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second. Trustee Keating.
Roll call. Trustee Keating.
Keating, aye.
Trustee Stetser.
That's all right.
Trustee Lightgift.
Lightgift, aye.
Trustee Lampier.
Lampier, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Plummer, aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. We're officially open. Is there anybody who has a conflict of interest or any disclosure?
Keating, I do not.
That's all right. I do not.
Lightgift, I do not.
Lampier, I do not.
Plummer, I do not. And Dorothea, could you read the open meeting compliance certification?
Okay. The guidelines for public comment will be public may speak only during the public comment period of the meeting or at such other time as a majority of the board allows. Speakers must give their name, address, and organization, if any. Speakers must be recognized by the presiding officers. Speakers must limit their remarks to 3 minutes on any given topic. Speakers may not yield any remaining time they may have to another speaker. Board members may, with the permission of the mayor, interrupt the speaker during their remarks, but only for the purpose of clarification or information. All remarks must be addressed to the board as a body and not to any member thereof. Speakers must observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste. Interested parties or the representatives may address the board by written communications. I will point out the chat button. I monitor the chat button throughout the meeting. If there's any comments per the agenda items, I'll be happy to relay it to the board.
Great, thank you. And I would like to thank everybody for attending this evening. And again, I would like to make note that we have a really full agenda tonight. So anybody from the public who does wish to send in a comment, please direct it to the agenda item. And if there's anything else you would like to address, please don't hesitate to reach out directly to us at Village Hall. We're happy to help. So with that in mind, why don't we start with our reports? First up is Steve, the building inspector report. Hello. Any comments on the report or any questions about anything?
I had 2 questions. The window, you mentioned to get this as the second report that included the window issues. Is there an update on that, or what is there a discussion going on with HPD, or what are they, what's happening with the window issue?
All right, first off, you gotta mute everybody. Somebody's got something going on in the background there. But the plant or HPB is going to get together and have some training and discussions. I've reached out to Albany to get some clarification. They are as kind of they really don't know what to do at this point. They're having the same issue. So it is a subject that's at the state level, trying to figure out, if there are possibilities for changes, but nothing set yet. As of now, we still go by the Secretary of Interior standards and our own Historic Preservation Code.
I'd like to just add a little bit of something to that. There's a couple of issues regarding windows specifically. One is really locating qualified craftsmen and finish carpenters to work on rebuilding windows in this area. And it's actually not just even limited to our area. It's actually a nationwide issue for people, that just, there's not enough people in the trades that really can do this. So that's one piece of it. Another thing that we're looking at is to have maybe an annual review, and it could be a joint workshop with the PZBA and the HPB together to look at new materials that are coming down the pike and just evaluating them and taking a look at maybe there's some other options for people that may be helpful as well. I don't know, Steve, if you have anything to add to that, but that's something else we're also looking at.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So it is an ongoing issue, and it will be a continuing issue until some decisions have been made.
Great, thank you.
Steve, I have one item on one question about your report. I'm going to mute you, Lily. It's making some noise there. You said, have received numerous requests and emails regarding outdoor seating, and Copperleaf is wondering why they are being left out. Are they wondering why they haven't been granted outdoor seating?
Yes.
Okay, so that wasn't part of their original application. If they want to do it, they should come to us with a plan, and we'll evaluate it and see if it makes sense.
And also on the agenda, we have one of our items is the expansion of the outdoor seating resolution. And so we'll have an opportunity tonight, I think, to look at that and discuss that because, they're not a restaurant, they're under a different permitting. So, that's something that we need to discuss as a board.
Yeah, that was the issue at the last meeting, that the outdoor seating was specifically tied to special permits.
Yeah.
And they don't have a special permit for their operation.
Right. Yeah. Lily, you had your hand up?
I did. And I would like to point out that I am waiting to be recognized when other trustees have just go ahead and speak out without being recognized. So I'm trying to follow the protocol that you have established. Thank you. I wanted to add from Steve's report, I was at the HPB meeting last night, as was Mayor Plummer, and I wanted to point out that that board is working diligently to create a list of craftsmen and who are available to work on wood windows. And the applicants who were there last night, I do believe they were approved for another type of window in the meantime. So it's not as if an application is being delayed while they discover what other options exist. I just wanted to point that out. If that was your question, Renee, that they are not being prevented from getting their windows changed. That's already, but going forward for new applications, the board recognizes that this is an issue, and so they are putting together a list of craftsmen who would be able to repair. It's a very specific very specific skill set. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the issue is that there are very specific craftsmen, and those that are, able to do it are booked. There are few and far between of the old world craftsmen anymore. And they just kind of to go off on Lily's statement. Yeah, they approve because there are post-war homes in the village that allow a little leeway. So if it is a post-war home, they are allowed some leeway in what can go in the home versus some of the older homes in the village.
Thank you. Great. Yeah, I do also want to add that it's not just a list of craftsmen. It's also a list of people who have the capacity to evaluate, to consult for the board and evaluate the condition perhaps of the windows or the property. So there's a couple of different lists going on, but which will be really helpful actually to the homeowner. Justin, did you have your hand up? Yes.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. I just did raise it briefly. I had two questions. One is that I recall that there was a violation related to Cirque and Cirque on North Main next to the canal, that the front door was changed on. And I was just wondering if there's any update on that item for Steve. And the second item was related to your update, Steve. The remark on I've spent many hours in regards to the land disturbance in the open space near the DPW, researching and defending the village's position on the matter. And I just wondered if you could clarify what the village's position is.
Isn't
All
that, isn't your write-up in there? Your findings? Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I had put out the findings or my position in that. So, I mean, it was a couple weeks ago, actually, that went out in regards to the disturbance. The area is being remediated a little at a time, but there's going to be no arboretum or anything going up in there till a site plan is put together and approved by the village and the village residents. This is not a quick fix. It's something that the mayor is on top of, and that part of that, like I said, I made a decision as far as what was going on and what shouldn't have gone on. It is what it is at this point, and Zach's crew is taking care of it a little bit at a time, and that's where we're at with that. And I did speak with Mr. Cirque last week. I ended up running into him and, said, hey, Steve, we need to get back on the door thing. And so I'll reach out to him again. I did catch up with him. And I'll give him a few days and then I'll get back on him again and say, hey, it's time. Let's get this done. It was approved. The new setup was approved and he should have it done.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Steve before we move on? Okay, thank you. DPW report, did you all receive a copy of Zach's report?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Any questions for Zach? Wow.
Nice and quiet.
I know. Boy, that's pretty buttoned up for the group. Well, you guys have really been out there. Everybody's been making our village look pretty and doing some good road. I saw you working on the catch basins this morning on
Yeah.
Main. Thank you.
Yep. We're at number 10 now. We've done 2 since the report was written, so we're carrying on. There was a couple things that I did want to discuss tonight with you guys. I'll be brief as possible. The oak tree on Boughton, which was brought up last fall. So the condition hasn't gotten better on the tree, and it is still in need of some sort of action, whether it's pruning or the removal of the trees, for you guys to decide what's going to happen. But the mayor and I did meet with Bartlett tree experts, and they did provide a mitigation plan for the tree, which included selective pruning and also soil treatment, which should prolong the life, but not necessarily make it 100% fault proof. So there's still risk with it. But I believe that something should be decided soon before something catastrophic does happen.
Yeah, let me just add to, oh yeah, Lily, you had, we're going to forward the information that came into, yeah, we're going to forward the information. It just came in today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just very recently. So that's why we're just adding it on, just to let you know that we did have this meeting. Just for background for people that are in the meeting, this is that really large black oak that right at the end of Boughton when you turn on to south. It's, as I said, a black oak tree. It's a native tree. It's about, I think he estimated it to be roughly 150 years old. And unfortunately, the tree is compromised. There has been, there's fissures in the tree and areas of decay internally on the tree. So I think, he's going to be doing a little write-up about what it would take for the mitigation with the tree, but also we need to kind of weigh the public safety issues in terms of what we do with the tree relative to, bracing it up. And I think cables would be involved. Am I correct, Zach? There was some cabling? Was
It
it
was
just?
discussed as an option, yes.
Okay, so, and also what the arborist made clear was that the mitigation would stabilize the tree somewhat, but not necessarily long-term. And so that's the issue, I think, before our community, really. We love that tree. And do we weigh that risk in terms of public safety and paying the money now to sort of bolster the tree up for maybe a few more years and then lose it anyway? So we'll be getting that information to the trustees, so we'll be able to discuss it in greater detail. Yes, Dan.
So Zach, I don't need an answer for this right away, but we are putting together a newsletter, and one of the things that we want to do in the newsletter is make sure that DPW has any information that they want to get out to folks, particularly, for May and June, the early part of the summer. What should people know? That kind of thing. So think about it, and I'll reach out to you privately and see if there's anything you want to communicate to people.
Okay.
Thanks.
That's great. Thanks, Dan. Any other questions for Zach or comments? Nope, group's still pretty buttoned up. Someone just asked a question about a public hearing on the tree. What was that? I missed that. Dorothea? Please unmute.
Yep, it just popped in. Yes, would the decision warrant a public hearing? Is it a public property? That would be a good question for Jeff. I don't believe so.
I don't believe it would. Jeff's going to be joining us shortly, but we certainly want to make the public aware of what's going on. And that's why, we're starting to research this and really what it's going to take to save the tree, at least temporarily. One thought I had is if we did lose the tree, that we retain part of the tree and maybe have an artist. I'm thinking of somebody who lives in our village who could carve the remainder of the tree, maybe in terms of a landmark and remembrance of the tree, as some kind of a piece of public art. But right now, we just need to take a look and assess what the possibilities are for the tree. So we'll be getting that information out to you. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, Jeff isn't here yet. So we're going to skip over Jeff. Mary? Treasurer's report.
I believe Brooklyn's going to do that for Mary.
Oh, Brooklyn.
It is I this week.
Great.
All right. So if everyone would like to tune into the treasury report, we have, everything's pretty normal. We have a total of $13,723.78 in vouchers. I do want to call your attention. We typically have our lawyer fees separate. They are included this time, which will be voucher 598-602, and as well as voucher 610, which are all lawyer fees. So those are usually on separate pages. Just want to draw attention that they are mixed in with our regular vouchers, but they are all set to be paid. Does anyone have any questions about?
I do. Sorry. Elisa, can I?
Yes, Dan, thank you. Sorry.
So the Hudson Russ is the only one we haven't reviewed and approved as the trustees. I do want to submit to the trustees now that I have reviewed it and it is ready for your review and voting on.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'm sorry, I lost I'm trying to find the actual bills. Okay, I make a motion that we approve the vouchers before us and pay the outstanding bills before us.
Lanfear, second.
Okay, roll call. Trustee Keating.
Keating, aye.
Trustee Stetser.
Stetser, aye.
Trustee Lightgib.
Lightgib, aye.
Trustee Lanfear.
Lanfear, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Plummer, aye.
Thanks, Brooklyn.
No problem. Thank you guys. And Lily, I just want to let you know we do have the bench ordered. It is taken care of. It's sitting outside, so everything's all set on that.
Thank you. Bench update.
Thank you.
Okay, should we move on then to looking at approving the minutes?
Actually, can I do the clerk's
Oh,
report
I'm
first?
sorry. I left you out. I'm sorry.
It's all
Yes,
right.
please.
I won't take it for personally. I'm looking for the HSA funding. This goes into effect June 1st. This is the other half that we funded the first part in January 1st. Now we fund the second part on June 1st. So I'm asking for the board approval to fund these amounts to the employees' accounts.
So moved. Is there a second?
Keating, second.
Roll call, trustee Keating,
Keating, aye.
trustee Stetser,
Stetser, aye.
trustee Lightgib,
Lightgib, aye.
trustee Lampier,
Lampier, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Plummer, aye.
Real quick, I neglected to put it on the agenda because I just did. I need a follow-up discussion regarding the Zoom platform. I had sent the board, if you recall, the price quote I have for moving everything over, and it's above my ability to approve, and it requires a board action. So if this is something the board wants to make happen, I need approval to move forward.
I'll make a motion to approve the switch to the Zoom platform and its associated expenses as quoted by Dorothea. Dorothea, thanks for all your research on that. Appreciate
No
it.
problem.
Lightgib,
Justin,
I'll second that, and I just have one question for discussion on that item. Dorothea, you had, as part of that quote, you had cited the unlimited cloud storage, and I don't have that number in front of me. Was it around 400 or something for the cloud storage option?
I believe so. That sounds about right.
Okay, that was a pretty large portion of the overall bill. I was just wondering if we could extract that out, or if there's another option that we could use that would be more economical until our needs reach that level.
I reviewed going with and without the minimal amount of storage they allow us. It could be troublesome. And after talking to the town and what they were using and their IT person, she highly recommended go ahead and implement that just to have that safety of that being backed up on the cloud and available to us if anything was to happen. So I think, you really are looking at the whole package right now. I mean, maybe at a future date, we can downgrade that, but I think since we're not moving from this platform for a little while, given the situation, I think it'd be better to be cautious in the overall.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't, that was just a point for discussion. I appreciate your diligence on that, and I'm okay with that approach right now as well.
okay, we have the motion seconded. It's before us. Oh,
Dan
Dan, I'm
has a
sorry.
comment.
Yes.
Yeah, so Justin, I think I'm in agreement with you. I might want to look at that. 'Cause Dorothea, I use it all day long. And when you record something, it gives you two options. If you have that cloud service, you get to either record it to the cloud or record it to your computer. It's the same file. It's just a .mov file. You can very easily record it to your computer and then copy it to our own storage, which would live in the cloud and might be cheaper than $400 a month. So I do think that's worth looking at.
It's $400 a year. I mean, yes, we
It's for the year. Oh,
it's here. Yes, that's why I'm saying we're not always starting these
Okay.
computers at a village computer. So
yeah, 400 a year, that's fine. 400 a month, yeah. Sorry.
no, I wouldn't. 400 a month, I would figure it out.
Okay. All right, thanks.
We get a giant hard drive. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions or comments before the vote? Okay,
Okay, I'll roll call that. Trustee Keating,
Keating, aye.
trustee Stetser,
Stetser, aye.
trustee Lightgib,
Lightgib, aye.
trustee Lampier,
Lampier, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Plummer, aye.
Motion passes. I will keep the board appraised as the switchover takes over, and hopefully before our next meeting, we'll be up and running.
Great. Thanks again. Thank you.
Thanks.
No problem.
Okay, review of the meeting minutes. Where are we here?
I will, if I can, I'll comment really quick. I did receive corrections from trustee Stetzer and trustee Gibb. I have made all those corrections. They included catching former trustee Galusha. Apparently he was still trying to attend meetings.
Yeah, we don't want to let him go.
Some other minor corrections. I can go over them one by one if the board requests.
I'm fine with that, personally.
Okay.
If
I
they're
have
not.
just one minor change on that, and it's the spelling on the CCA name. It's Sue Hughes Smith. I think you have it listed as Sue Hugh Smith. It's Hughes. So I think it's on the first page of the meeting notes.
Okay. I will get that corrected. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other comments on the meeting of April 8th? I move we approve the minutes as amended. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, trustee Keating.
Roll call, trustee Keating,
Keating, aye.
trustee Stetzer,
Stetser, aye.
trustee Lightgib,
Lightgib, aye.
trustee Lampier,
Lampier, aye.
Mayor Plummer,
Plummer, aye.
motion passes.
Okay, any comments or amendments to the April 13th minutes? Wow.
We already sent them to Dorothea.
What was that, Renee?
We sent them to Dorothea ahead of time.
Yeah, okay, so just want to
Okay.
make sure. Anything else? Okay. I make a motion that we approve the April 13th minutes. Is there a second?
Keating,
Stetser,
second.
Lampier, second.
Oop,
Wow, we're all chomping at the bit tonight.
get through those minutes. All right, I'm going to say Lily got that one. Trustee Keating,
Keating, aye.
trustee Stetzer,
Stetser, aye.
trustee Lightgib,
Lightgib, aye.
trustee Lampier,
Lampier, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Nope, Plummer, aye.
Motion passes. We'll have more for you in reading pleasure soon.
Thank you. Well, Jeff's going to join us in a few minutes. I don't know if he had a report. What we could do is just, I would skip down then to, it's the item, it says, it's listed as, I think it's item 12, village-wide cleanup day. It actually is not completely village-wide. It is really a cleanup day at Shane Place. And we're looking at May 22nd, 9:30 to noon. I'd also like to thank Supervisor Smith and also Board Member Stephanie Townsend for working with the village to help set this up. It's a collaboration between the town and the village, sort of rallying our community, our residents, to come on down to Shane Place. And we'll have, you know, the gloves and bags and instructions, and everybody can have a little designated area just to help kind of in the post-pandemic environment here, hopefully almost post, to clean up and refresh Shane Place. Any thoughts from the trustees on this? Yeah, Dan?
So real quick, also wanted to add to that, the Rotary is a part of this
Yes,
and the
indeed.
Chamber of Commerce. So thanks to them as well.
Yes, thanks as
And
well.
we'll publicize this on our Facebook page and maybe even get an email blast out about it. It's a really neat thing. And it's meeting down at the pavilion, right, between Lock 32 and Aladdin's.
Yeah,
That's where the meeting is.
yeah, I think it's a nice event. Yes, Lily?
Have any of the business owners in the area been invited, specifically invited?
Yeah, they're being made aware of it. You know, yes, short answer is yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
I would like eyes on the trash that's being picked up. I know this sounds like a little bit of detective work so that we can identify where the trash is originating and maybe take steps to address that as well. So it could be a two-pronged effort, cleaning it up and also discovering how we can put a stop to the ongoing problem.
Okay, little knock on the door. Is this yours? Right. Okay. No, I think it's a nice event. Yes, Dan.
So I just have a question about what you just suggested, Lily. How would we exactly do that? Who is responsible for exactly doing that? What problem is it addressing? Are people dumping trash down there in large quantities that we're aware of, and we want to find out who it is? And who are we asking to do that work?
I'm just saying when we are doing it, we're not going to, that's not about confronting people. It makes us aware of where there might be an issue. For instance, maybe there's a business and there's this preponderance of bottles being left. Maybe they need another dumpster. Maybe they need to ask to have another tote because their business is not able to accommodate an overflow. There have been photographs that have been sent to us, I'm sure you were aware, by villagers who have been regularly walking there and been very frustrated with the lack of response from business owners, which among the things that were there were packing boxes and other things that went unaddressed. So I think that to step up our enforcement a bit regarding why the trash is constantly showing up in this particular spot. So maybe there's an issue that the trustees need to be aware of. That's what I'm suggesting.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
Not a
I don't understand
confrontational thing.
Well, but I don't understand. You said that we should investigate this. Who are we asking to do this? It's a Saturday. Are we asking the DPW to come in, or are we looking for volunteers to help investigate the trash?
No, it's not as formal as that. It's just something that we've noticed. I mean, if you notice that there's a lot of wine bottles, for instance, or a lot of packing boxes with one business's name on it, that would give you an idea. That's all I'm saying. It's not formal in any way.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. And I think Steve's been working with some of the property owners down there and business owners. So Steve, I see your hands up. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Lily, just so you know, immediately after the complaint or the person who keeps complaining contacted me the first time, I went to the business that was in charge of the cardboard boxes, and they immediately took care of that. They have been responsible for their end. What's down there is stuff that's blown from all over the place, and actually a bunch of masks that seem to, end up all over the place. There's not a lot of stuff down there. There's a few pieces here and there, but the people responsible for the dumpsters have been notified, and they've been keeping an eye on their portion of the trash. The rest of it's, like I said, it's small things, wrappers, and odds and ends. So I don't know that it's a business down there per se, but I think it's the general public that tends to be a little messy.
Okay, that's the information that I'm seeking. And if we're recognizing that, maybe we should, as trustees, consider adding more trash containers maybe along behind the alley where they aren't currently. I'm just saying we should look at it as a learning experience and an opportunity as well, if there's a problem that should be addressed. That was all.
Great. Thank you. No, good points. And maybe we do need some more trash cans as well. So I think that's something that we all should take a look at for sure. Okay. Oh, Jeff. Hi, Jeff. Good to see you. Did you have a village attorney report? Anything you wanted to address?
The only thing that I would mention is that Renee and I are working on fine tuning the speed limit legislation.
Great. Thank you. Thanks to you and Renee for doing that. That's great. Okay, well, with that being said, we're going to go to our items on the agenda. The first item is the review of the non-municipal permit for the Frog House granted on February 17th of this year. And I would like to say that per the applicant's request in an email of May 10th, I make a motion that we waive the 45-day requirement and allow their activity to occur at 65 State Street. Do we have a second? Oh,
I'll
Lily?
second it.
Oh, thanks, Dan. Okay, yeah, Lily, I'm sorry, yeah.
I'm sorry. I will second that, and I would like a little discussion.
Sure.
I have a question for Jeff. And that question is, given that the event is now occurring at a private residence, is a non-municipal use permit even required?
The component that I can think of is that they're parking in one place and walking to another. I mean, often we've done non-municipal use permits for like 1-day estate sales because there's going to be increased traffic. I mean, that's the reason that it might be appropriate in this case.
Just covers the bases, essentially. Yes, Steve?
Well, Dan had his
Oh,
hand
Dan,
up.
okay, sure. Dan, then
Yeah.
Steve.
Lily, thank you. I had the exact same question. But then my second question was, now that it's in a private residence, what are we doing to alert the neighbors that there may be increased activity near their homes?
I'd like to say that I'm reaching out to one of the board members for just that reason, and I believe that you and I discussed this in an earlier phone call, just to let you know as well. It's also 20 people or less, similar to having perhaps a party. It's not an extremely large crowd, so I do think absolutely let the neighbors know. So that's the intention. Yep. Yes, Steve, thank you.
I just want to let you know, they also reached out to Charlie Fox because in Margot's poster, it made reference to parking down in Northfield Commons, which I thought it would be proper to notify Charlie to connect the two of them to let them figure that portion out for her, assuming that they could park on somebody else's property for the function.
Okay, thank you. No, that's nice. I'm sure they'll be able to make that connection. And that's why I left that component out, because we don't own that parking. It's private parking. So we have a second on that motion. Is there any other further discussion? Dorothea, call the vote, please.
Trustee Keating,
Keating, aye.
Trustee Stetser,
Stetser, aye.
Trustee Lightgib,
Like it, bye.
Trustee Lampier,
Lampier, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Plummer, aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, they can hop to it. Had to say it.
Real quick, we do have a comment. A caller has questioned his board voted to rescind the original permit. I don't know if that needs to be a component. I would ask Jeff.
I thought maybe I heard the motion wrong. I thought it was a modification motion.
It is a modification.
So that's the answer to the question. We did not revoke the permit.
We modified it.
Okay.
And by modifying it, we changed the location of the event per their request. Okay. Oh, Margot, Dr. Foss has a question.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Thank you very, very much. Since it's a few cars, is it allowed to park along State Street?
I'm thinking yes. Steve?
Was that a question for me? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Just that.
Regarding parking on State Street, since there's not that many cars.
Like, the reason that question is there, Steve, is because the neighbors have big parties frequently enough and they park all along State Street. So it just occurred to me that maybe that's allowed. Our next door neighbors.
I'm not the parking guy. That would be something for Mike to ask him. I'm really not. Maybe Zach might know, have a handle on the parking, but I'm not aware.
Yep, Zach, thank you.
Yeah, I don't believe that's posted for no parking. I believe you can park on that.
I believe so too. Pretty sure.
It'll be a natural traffic calming device too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's leaving there permanently.
Since Northfield Commons could be an issue, and as somebody pointed out, it's private property, then they can be just told to park along the street.
Okay.
But I also appreciate Steve's suggestion that I talk to this fellow and we can talk offline about that. So thank you very, very much. It's been harrowing for me, but this is a great relief. And so I get to have a good garden, and I hope you guys will all come and visit it.
Well, we're excited you're having the event. Thanks so much, Margot. Thanks, you guys. Okay, next item. We have the non-municipal, it says agreement, but it's permit. Pittsford Art Galleries.
I don't believe they're present.
Oh, okay.
I'm just checking real quick. Nope. Looks like I'll be making their presentation. We have done this before. They are having an event where they typically invite the public to visit their 3 galleries on the same evening. They food and everything else. This was done in the past, I think end of last summer, if I'm recalling right. Steve will be able to. Oh, Lily's showing the sheet. So they're just looking for that approval to move forward. It's same scenario. They'll be using the sidewalks and parking and same concerns we have.
But it's a nice idea. Yeah. Are there any?
Presumably, we've got to waive the 45 days again.
That's right.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
I will make a motion that we approve a non-municipal use permit waiving the 45-day requirement for the Pittsford Spring Art Walk on Thursday, May 20th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call. Trustee Keating.
Keating, aye.
Trustee Stetser.
Stetser, aye.
Trustee Lightgib.
Lightgib, aye.
Trustee Lampier.
Lampier, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Plummer, aye.
Motion passes.
Excellent. Okay. Moving on. And actually, we have the application for the short-term retail business. Mr. Ronald, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Jurency. I also have moved up item number 14 because essentially they're related. This is the special permit application for Carol Cutter. It's for a salon at 50 State. Because we'll be potentially setting hearing dates. Is Mr. Jurency here? No?
I'm unmuting a caller to see if it's him.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Mr. Jurency? Nope.
Nope.
Try one more. Nope.
Well,
I don't believe he is present.
Okay.
Might have been some confusion on his part, but we can forward any questions or concerns, or Steve has his hand raised. Maybe he can answer.
Yes, Steve. Thank you.
I was gonna say, Dorothy, if you're in the office, his application is sitting right on my desk. If you want.
The board
Yeah.
has his application.
All right, do you have his number? Because you can move on, I can try and reach him.
I can send that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there's also a special permit application, item number 14, for Carol Cutter. This is the salon at 50 State Street.
I believe Ms. Cutter is present.
Oh,
There
great.
she is.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
good. How are you?
Very well. So tell us about your business.
Oh, thanks for scooting me in here early. I appreciate it. So it's a hair salon and retail, and fairly small, about 2 to 4 stylists. And yeah.
Okay.
Why does there need to be, I'm sorry. Question, can I
Yes,
ask
Dan,
a question?
yes.
Remind me why isn't this permitted in this area? Why would we need a special permit for it? I thought it was
It's permitted by special permit.
Oh, it is. Okay, sorry. All right, thanks.
Yes, Steve? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Steve was going to weigh in. Okay. Any questions for the applicant, for Carol? Okay. Dorothea, could you pick a date for a public hearing?
Dates coming to me, I'm going to say June 8th at 7 p.m.
Okay.
There we go. You're in
Thank
the
you so
hopper.
Carol Ann, before you go, just so you know, because of the way the law is written, that's the soonest we can do it. We would love to do this sooner than that, but we have to notice it, and it has to go out into the newspaper, and we have to post things so the public can be a part of it. So it's not for lack of wanting to be able to hear your application. We would love to do it as quickly as possible, and that literally is as quickly as possible, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan, for.
In the
Getting it.
meantime, can we have a motion and second on sending that to public hearing, please?
Yes. I make a motion that we send this to public hearing on June 8th at 7 p.m. Is there a second?
Lampier, second.
Trustee Keating,
Keating, aye.
Trustee Stetser,
That's her eye.
Trustee Lightgib,
Like it, bye.
Trustee Lampier,
Lampier, aye.
Mayor Plummer,
Plummer, aye.
motion passes.
Okay, just circling back, were we able to get the applicant, Mr. Jurency, on the phone? Steve? Oh, maybe he's on the phone with him.
We do have,
I just got the number, so I'll try and contact him now.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, Lily?
I can wait until Ron arrives, but I'll put the question on the table now, so when he does arrive, he may answer. And that is, has the village received verification that the town has approved the use on their property?
Steve, yes, thank you.
Yep, I just talked to Paul Schenkel today in regards to it, and he is going through the process himself. He was wondering where we stood on it. I told him it is a approved. I mean, we have approved it through the short-term retail, and he said they will process it through their end.
And you want to back that up just a little bit. You just made a statement.
Yeah.
And you said that we have approved it through short-term retail.
No, that we approved the short-term retail law, not that we.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. Yeah. So I told him that we were going through the process, or we will be going through the process with the gentleman as well as they will.
Okay. I think before, Steve, we have asked the town first for their approval for that use on their property before we proceeded with any applications. That was the process with Mr. Clotton.
However the board chooses to do it, Lily, that's up to the board. I do know that Paul seemed to think that he would process the same as they did with Charlie.
Jeff, would we be able to approve it this evening pending the town's approval for the use on their property, or should we wait?
We're not going to approve it anyway.
Well, I mean, not approve it, I'm sorry, but send it to public hearing. That's what I meant to say, sorry.
It's not an application prerequisite, but well, it is actually an application prerequisite that we get the signature of the property owner on that they're supporting the application, and the town's the property owner. So I don't know if Steve could speak to whether or not they'll sign the application, but I think that would be kind of a necessary step in all of this.
Oh, did we lose Steve?
I think Steve is trying to reach the applicant.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason, I thought that he had already contacted the town, but maybe I was misinformed.
My point was just a signature that the town is okay, that it supports the application. So in that sense, I think Trustee Lampier is correct that the routing of our statute would require town approval first. I think that's what Harley Day Hats had there.
Yeah,
I
they did have
recall.
town approval first. Lily, you're correct about that. I remember that. Oh, well, I think we lost Steve.
Yeah, he's still offline. I think he's still trying to reach the applicant.
Do we want
Um,
to come back to it?
Yeah,
Up here he is.
yeah, Steve.
Yeah, I just spoke to Ron. He wasn't aware. He is going to sign on. It's going to take him a few minutes because he's somewhere in Greece. So he's getting on a computer and he will be signing on to explain. If you guys can, move forward and then come back to him.
Someone has arrived. Oops, I don't know who that was. Is that him?
Can't tell.
I know.
We could want to move on to the retainer agreements and we can come back.
Yeah,
That's kind of
yeah.
quick.
Thank you. Let's do that.
Okay.
Oops.
I just have one question about the retainer agreements. It's the same
Dan?
question every year. Can I ask it? The same question every year is, they always read really well. I just always want to know what the difference is between this year's and last year's. Has anything changed? Anything changed in the rates? Anything changed in the expectations?
I believe from what
Lily, yes.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry. I believe from what I read that Osborne Reed had made an adjustment to their retainer compared to last year's, and reduction to some of the rates. Some of them kept the same and some were reduced. That was my observation. There was a slight increase, I believe, in Mindy's rates. But somebody else can verify that. That was just my observation.
You want me to speak to the Osborne Reed agreement?
That would be great, Jeff. Thank you.
So the total fees have been capped, and that's a reduction from last year. The hourly rates have gone up slightly, but that shouldn't really impact because, as I said, the other ones have been capped.
Thank you.
How much is that amount? Do you know on the increase, Jeff?
Are you talking about the hourly rate increase?
Yeah, yeah.
So the hourly rate went to 165, general work, 205 litigation, but the cap went down 20, I'm not sure, 14, 20, something like that. There was no cap, actually, so the cap is new. I thought that would make budgeting easier if we had a cap.
If you like, I can give you the cap amounts. The general work for the Board of Trustees is capped at 80,000, and it looks like for Historic Preservation Board, it's capped at 20,000.
Yep. Any other questions? I make a motion that we approve the retainer agreements. Should we do it separately?
May I make a comment on this?
Oh, Justin Leedstra. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, Justin Leedstra, 19 Boughton Avenue. I took a brief glance at this agreement, and I would say that it's much less robust than the agreement with Attorney Zoglin, and that agreement has done an excellent job of controlling cost. I would suggest the board consider adding elements of that. Some of the key elements are stating what the attorney is not expected to do, and placing limits on what they can do to bring the cost down. For example, the agreement with Zoglin is for routine applications. Board members will write all the findings for the board or staff. It will not be falling on the attorney. Likewise, there's a specified maximum number of meetings per month the attorney will attend. And there's also things like they'll take up to X phone calls a month. I'm thinking this cost could be brought down considerably if the board thinks about establishing some parameters of what services they actually need and what services that they specifically don't want their attorney to do, that they have other resources to provide. So I'm just asking the board to consider that. I think there's some options to bring the cost down. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin, for your comment. Anybody want to respond to that? I mean, I'm new, so I mean, maybe somebody, Lily, you might have, better view on it.
I think what Justin is suggesting is worthy of investigating. That would be up to that board to determine whether they are willing to take on the extra work. That's something for the PBZA to decide. But I think it is worth looking into as research. One thing I might suggest is that we add some language regarding research. That a good amount of fees have been aimed at research. We have been charged for that, and I think I would suggest that we have a policy that the trustees must approve any research that is to be done ahead of time, rather than having it instigated by the firm and then sending us a bill for it. So the reason I say that is that we have racked up some substantial billing regarding research that was done that was not requested. It was something that the firm felt they needed to do in order to bring themselves up to speed. And I think we need to discuss that as a board as far as a cost-saving measure, that at least it be brought before the Board of Trustees for their approval, because we are in charge of the cash, and we need to know when there's going to be an extra expense. So that is just adding on to what Mr. Valestra has pointed out to us as cost-saving possibilities.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question of Trustee Lanfair? Were you referring to my bills when you talked about the research? What?
No, I was not. I was not. There have been specifically on the Zoglin bills, in reviewing them over the past 4 years, there are instances where research was undertaken. It was not specified. It was not specifically requested. And so the board discussed several years ago the possibility of having either the board or the attorney notify the Board of Trustees that investigation or research was necessary, and how much that was anticipated to be. So because it was a very unexpected expense.
Oh, okay.
And there might have been another way, I could give specific instances, another way to accomplish the goal. And one of them involved the building inspector in a decision that he had made. And so research was done regarding that, when actually we could have gone to our building inspector and received the same information without being charged for it by the attorney who did the research. That was one instance, for instance.
Okay, thank you, Lily. Yes, Dan.
Thank you.
I would suggest this is sitting strangely with me. I would suggest that if there's a specific problem with a specific attorney, that we should address that directly with that attorney, not in a public meeting where that attorney is not present.
Right.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, it just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. It's just very vague, and I'm sure there's another side of the story, and talk that through. It just feels like a little bit of an attack on that attorney, and that attorney's not present.
Yeah, I actually, thank you, Dan. I would agree with that. I also think, that there's perhaps policies or internally for boards in terms of understanding the resources that they have without not necessarily going to their attorney. For example, we may be able to do some internal research, perhaps using NICOM as a resource or other avenues. And maybe it's just really, it's a solvable issue perhaps. And I agree with you, perhaps speaking with that attorney specifically offline, and also touching base with the board in terms of, what they see as a resource for them to use. that is not necessarily the attorney. So,
I agree
Yeah.
with that.
yeah. So I think, offline is a good thing. So with that in mind, are there any other comments from the board? Okay, I think that, I'll certainly be happy to follow up with that specific attorney and, get some answers. So perhaps with that in mind, we should take a look at singularly. I make a motion to approve the retainer agreement from Osborne and Reed as presented. Is there a
Second
second?
motion, Keating.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call. Trustee Keating,
Keating, aye.
trustee Stetser,
That's her eye.
trustee Lightgib,
Like, yeah, bye.
trustee Lampier,
Lanfear, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Hello,
Plummer,
this is Ron.
Oh, hold
Right.
on, Mr. Dracy, we'll be right with you. Mayor Plummer,
Yes, Plummer, aye.
motion passes.
Okay, and then I'm thinking at this point, because I will be touching base with the other attorney regarding aspects of this retainer agreement, that we should hold off. Is that what I'm hearing from the board? And I'll report back. You can nod. Yes? No?
Holding off, go ahead, Renee.
I believe Mr. Felistra was saying that he believed that the retainer agreement from Zoglin was very thorough, if I heard him correctly, was very thorough and laid out when because their board, having been on that board, does a lot of the work themselves rather than relying on the attorney. And I believe he said he believed this was a very thorough retainer agreement and that we should actually look at our retainer agreement if I understood what he said correctly. So I see no reason not to approve the Zoglin agreement tonight.
Okay, thank you. It was just that Trustee Lanfear had raised an issue about some of the money that was spent. So I think maybe, Lily, do you have anything further to say on that? Are you comfortable approving the agreement? And then I would still get back with.
Yeah, I'm frozen. I don't know why I'm frozen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, good. My screen is frozen. Yes, I was merely suggesting that going forward, that the trustees sign off on any extra work that's done. That is part of the retainer understanding. But if you feel that will be taken care of between a meeting between you and that attorney, then that's acceptable. I'm fine.
Okay, thanks. I just want to make sure everybody, things were vetted here. Because
May I comment again?
Yes, quickly, please.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance. So I was referring to Jeff Turner's agreement in my prior comments. I didn't realize Mindy's agreement was on here. I hadn't had a chance to read that. But there is no special research items. It's a fixed price per month. It outlines what the attorney will do and what they will not do. If it's outside the scope of the contract, we can't do it. So literally there's a fixed price per month. There is nothing else. The only other matter that comes up, I believe, is litigation. So if other people happen to call this particular attorney that are not a member of the board, then I think there are some bills that were received for other people requesting services for that attorney, but that has nothing to do with the planning board or zoning board. There may be some concerns about, prior to going to a fixed price contract, what went into a particular bill and whether that was, I don't know what the questions were, but that was years and years and years ago. I think this is an excellent contract for controlling cost. And I think there has been zero instance of any bill beyond the fixed price fee per month, other than for ongoing litigation.
Yep. Thank you, Justin, for your input. And again, either way, I will make contact with the attorney. I still make a motion to approve the retainer agreement with Zoglin Group as before the board. Is there a second?
Lightgib, second.
Okay, roll call. Trustee Keating,
Keating, aye.
trustee Stetser,
That's all right.
trustee Lightgib,
Lightgib, aye.
trustee Lampier,
Lanfear, aye.
Mayor Plummer,
Plummer, I.
motion passes.
Okay, we're going to circle back now. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Jurency. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly? You're muted. There.
There we go. The name is Jurency, yes.
Jurency. Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us. We have your application for a short-term retail business.
Yes,
Can you
ma'am.
fill us in a little bit?
Absolutely. Well, hi, Dan. I used to work with Dan Keating over at Diabetics with Roger Cuddy years ago, and retired to get back into the food business, hoping to get a food truck. I now have a brand new food truck. It's got all brand new equipment. I have a 30-year executive chef, Kurt Exley, who's joined me as a partner. And we've designed specifically our menu to not compete with any of the village businesses. What we're wanting to do is go in 10 Main Street, where Charlie Harladay has been set up for 12 years, and come in after he's closed in the afternoons and stay open for about 3 hours and then shut down, probably be gone by 8:15, 8:30. And we'd like to do that for a 3, 4, 5 month contract if we could, to see how it works out.
Okay, have you, the question came up before you arrived as to whether you had actually, it's town land. Have you been working with the town and received?
Yes, I spoke with someone at the town today. I don't have my notes with me because I'm not home, but I spoke with someone over there. They're going to get back to me in 2 days and said they didn't have a problem with it. I told them I knew I was swimming upstream here trying to work with the town and the village, and I expected some resistance, and he acted like that might not be the case, that they would be fine with it as far as he knew at the time.
Okay, so at this point, you're waiting on the sign off from the town?
Yes, he said it should be 2 days.
Okay. So it brings us back then, Jeff, to, the application, which does require the sign off from the property owner and setting a date for a public hearing.
It depends on whether the board is comfortable moving it along to public hearing subject to getting that sign off prior to approval.
I'm very comfortable with that. Anybody uncomfortable with it?
Yeah, Lily, yes?
Talking again. Yes, I would agree that with Jeff, that I would feel most comfortable receiving that information first before proceeding. May I also add a couple of questions that Ron might be thinking of before he presents to the board and a public set of the public hearing? That there would be some questions I would have, and perhaps that way he could be prepared. May I do that at this point?
Please do.
Okay. This is not to be answered now. I'm just saying in preparation for the anticipated public hearing. And that would be the dimensions of your food truck. Also the venting equipment that you would be using, and would electricity be required? Also, I would ask the board to add, because this is new for us, a requirement that our fire marshal examine the setup and the equipment prior to opening for business. So those are just some questions I have that you can be thinking about and have prepared for us. I thank you.
Thank you very much. And I could answer those now, but I will wait and give those answers at the proper time.
Yeah, and I think some of you may recall years ago we did, the village held a village public market, farmers market there on that site. And there were food trucks there that, used power and had all of, everything you're asking about. So
yes,
we've at least had that experience on that site and have been able to deal with it. And I'm sure Steve will be able to work with Mr. Jurency, to make sure things are up to code. Yep.
Very well. thank you for everything. This would be just, this is something I thought and dreamed of when I worked at Ivetics with Dan. I've always thought that would be a great spot. And to be completely transparent, I've also reached out to some property owners along Showen Place, one in particular, and I've made an offer to if the town and village will work with me to set up at nights there in another location. I really don't want to use this location because Charlie's not crazy about me coming in there if I can find another one, but he said that he's not going to object, and if he gives me a chance, he'll be my best friend. We'll get along great.
Well, as we all know, we have a law that we apply equally to all applicants, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Steve, did you want to add something? Was your hand up?
Yeah, I just want to say he will be required to provide me with all health department and licensing in order to be able to move there. And I definitely would inspect the truck as same I do for Charlie to make sure that everything's safe.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Again, do we feel comfortable moving forward, to set a date for a public hearing? Dan said that he was comfortable with that. Yes, Steve?
I do want to mention, it just is in passing, that Paul, speaking with Paul Schenkel today, relayed to me that he doesn't believe the town will have any issue with this application.
Okay.
Can I ask
yes,
a question of Steve?
Oh, sorry.
Steve, I'm sorry, Trustee Lightgib.
Sure. Just wanted to chime in. I would also be okay with scheduling the public hearing conditional on the approval from the town, as long as everybody is on the same page that it would be rescheduled if we get to the next meeting and we haven't received that information.
Okay, good way to go. Yes, Jeff,
My question for Steve, if he knows the answer to this, is that anything other than a sign off by the town, or is there a public hearing component that the town has, do you know, or not?
No, they don't do a public hearing. They just do an agreement. First off, he needs to have the application signed, and then he will also sign an agreement, as Charlie did, between himself and the town, as it's their property.
So my point with that is that there won't be a long wait for the town.
Right, there's no posting per se.
No.
So it really could be turned around pretty quickly. Okay, does somebody want to make a motion? Dan?
I'll make a motion to schedule the public hearing for the Buku food truck. And Dorothea, what's the date on that?
It's going to be June 8th at 7 p.m.
June 8th at 7 p.m.
Contingent
on approval from the town before, so.
I'll second that. Stetzer?
Thank you, Renee.
Roll call, Trustee Keating,
Keating, aye.
Trustee Stetzer,
Stetzer, aye.
Trustee Lightgib,
Lightgib, aye.
Trustee Lanfair,
Lanfair, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Plummer, aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, Ron, you're moving along.
Can I just jump in real quick? And
Yes,
two things for Ron. One is, Ron, I just gave this exact same speech to a different applicant. That's legally as quickly as we can do this. We would love to do this as quickly as possible. We don't have control over how long that takes. We have to send notices out to the newspaper. This is law that we can't get around. We would love to speed this along, and that's literally the fastest that we can do it. And I'm sorry for that.
Well, we're in no hurry at all. We just want to make friends and serve great food. And, we'll take as long as it takes.
Very good. And then the second thing is, I probably should have disclosed that Ron and I used to work together. Ron, yeah, so at the beginning of the meeting, I should have disclosed he was on the agenda tonight and we used to work together. I wouldn't, I don't think there's any conflict of interest. I don't have any financial incentive, that kind of thing.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
Great. Thank you, Ron. Okay.
Thank you.
Next item up, a discussion on the expansion of our outdoor seating resolution. We're bringing this back to the board because after our last meeting, it became clear that it looks like, the governor is lifting restrictions for restaurants a little more quickly maybe than we had anticipated. And possibly, maybe Dorothea, you may have some additional information. I think they're lifting them, maybe by July. Am I
It
correct?
seems to be something that changes depending on the infection rates. The most recent, I think, was more dealing with New York City, bringing them up to 75%, where the rest of the state was. I haven't seen anything change since that press release, but I have been monitoring those changes when they come through, and I haven't seen anything recently.
Okay, so well, we're just trying to follow it and track with it, because one of the things that I think was a concern was that, businesses kind of get set up for their outside seating, and the way the resolution was passed the last time, it was through, I believe, October 31st, I think it was, or whatever came first in terms of lifting the restrictions. But if there was, I just think we need to talk about this. If they have outdoor seating set up and all of a sudden they can't have it anymore and it's July. Any thoughts? Yes, Renee.
Can we lift or amend the one section that says, or the executive order changes or the pandemic ends? I can't remember what language we had, but can we just put a date on there of next year, or whatever the attorney recommends as a sound date? Because I don't want to pull the rug out from under our businesses.
Yeah, and frankly, the other thought was that even with some of the restrictions really being lifted, that also nice weather, people want to sit outside, but also many people might not still feel comfortable being seated inside as well. So, this option could still, be pretty viable. The other thing too that I want the board to consider, and I'd like to hear your thoughts, is it was specific last time for restaurants for special use permits. And it came to my attention that maybe we should really look at, instead of just saying only that we should look at commercial use. For example, there's a new bookstore going in that I'm excited about down on South Main Street, and they do have the capacity to put some little tables out front for people who maybe just bought a book and want to sit and read a little bit. They're not covered under this necessarily. And also, I think last time Copperleaf was brought up in terms of if they wanted to put a couple of tables outside. They do not have a special use permit. They are permitted differently. So again, I bring this back to the board for discussion, that maybe we look at just saying commercial use. Any thoughts? Yes, Lily?
I do, and I do agree with that. But I would, because it's very difficult to make a blanket approval for the entire village, because each area is a little bit different and could accommodate. For instance, the bookstore has enough room out front to accommodate comfortably passing foot traffic, as well as anybody who wanted to stop and sit and browse, or another business might not have that option. I would feel comfortable in at least looking at them individually and making exceptions to our code on an individual basis. The second part of it is when you talked about the expansion of the outdoor seating, notwithstanding the governor's orders, and we have that as part of the expansion. So yes, I think we could talk about adjusting the language that would permit the outdoor seating to continue till October 31st, in spite of what the governor has determined, because just as you said, some people might not feel comfortable going indoors yet, in spite of a ban being lifted or hours being extended. But I'm I'd like to put this in correct words, because I don't want to be misunderstood. And that is that we have a code regarding outdoor sale of merchandise. And while it seems very charming and acceptable for some businesses, and everyone would embrace it, we cannot specify that it only applies to bookstores, or it only applies to a pet store. It would only apply to certain stores. If you have someone who's selling something, hot tubs, for instance, and we have a law that allows outside display of merchandise and people being able to, look at it outdoors and try it out outdoors, that had to apply to that business as well. We can't, I hope I'm making sense. I would like to give a lot more thought, because while I agree as to the bookstore aspect of it, and maybe some places the clothing, but there might be instances where it might not be as acceptable. I don't know. I don't want to use the word acceptable, but feasible.
No, I
So
appreciate.
I would like some conversation around that.
Yeah, I appreciate your input. We were specifically talking about seating, not selling or just displaying merchandise, I believe. But Dan, your hand is up.
I
Yeah,
see.
so I would really love for Steve to be the one to, we have a code enforcement officer, we have a fire inspection, I forget the word, Steve.
Marshall.
The fire marshal. Steve is well equipped to make these kinds of judgments, because this is all about safety and neighborliness. And I would hate to see us I would hate to see us get bogged down in long meetings when we've got an accomplished guy on the board who could make those kinds of calls and work with these businesses to see if it works.
I agree with you, but we also have a resolution that we really need to look back on because of the restrictions. So yes, Steve, thank you.
Yeah, Dan, thank you for that, because that's exactly what I was going to say. I would feel it's within my duty to make sure, under the fire code and protection of the neighborhoods and the people, to administer this code or this application for outdoor seating. It's not for outdoor materials or to sell goods. It's purely for outdoor seating. And I would feel very comfortable, having people apply and then looking at their proposal and determining whether it meets fire codes, fire lanes, safety of all pedestrians and all traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Noise,
Yes.
Garbage, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, excuse me, Justin has his hand up. I recognize Justin.
Thank you. I think this is a really good discussion, and I think that some of the issues might be a little bit more difficult than they seem on the surface. I think that a lot of us can agree that the outdoor seating has worked really well in places like Lock 32 and the pavilion. And I'm happy that was able to be made permanent. I think the issue here is that there is an underlying structure of zoning with an approval process that is designed to ensure adequate public input. And what we're talking about here is short-circuiting that process using a mechanism that's allowed under an executive order. And it's something that I think the concern is that this might be a backdoor to the zoning process, essentially. I think that with Mr. Loth, his ability to work with the applicants and the business owners is really fantastic, especially in the capacity as fire marshal and building inspector. I think that those things are rather objective and well defined by his roles professionally. I think that when you get to noise and the possibility for disturbance, that's something that seems a bit more discretionary to me. And I think that that's where you really need to, if you're handing this off to a non-elected official, we really need to be careful that we are very carefully parameterizing what we can say yes to and what we would say no to. So I guess I'm a little bit I'm concerned, especially based on some input that we've heard from neighbors in these areas, that this is the right path forward to expand the kinds of approvals that can be given under the executive order.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that input. I think, okay, well, Steve, you have your hand up, so yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, Justin, and I completely understand and agree as far as noise and things like that. These things would be very closely monitored. I mean, people like Rachel's did it last year, and it worked out very well. It worked out very well for the business, very well for the public. It was widely accepted throughout the village when outdoor seating came to be. There would not be seating allowed where it was going to disturb neighbors or anything like that. And the first complaint or first sign of anything would shut that down You know, I would not allow that to go on. And just, I would protect the village and the residents over a business. Just, that's the way I feel.
Mhm. Any other comments on this?
May I comment?
Oh, hang on one second. Excuse me, Justin, just hold off. Dorothea has her hand up. She might be getting some comments from people.
Yes, I am getting some comments online. John Limbeck requests to speak to the board on this topic.
Oh, sure.
John, go ahead.
A reminder of the 3-minute, I'll use the timer on the 3 minutes. And John, I don't know if you were on at the beginning of the call, but Mayor Plummer established rules for public commentary that there would be a 3-minute cap. So I'll let you know. When
Yes, I was here before you were.
Okay, thanks.
John Limbeck, 62 State Street, and in order to maximize my 3-minute allotment, I wrote a statement that I'll read, so I apologize for no eye contact. I want to renew my objection to Copperleaf Brewing being allowed any outdoor seating. One, the applicant jumped right on the owner's bandwagon when he insisted that a site plan review would not occur for this project. Number two, the parcel owner does not have an approved site plan going on 7 years now. Number three, the parcel is out of control. Today, as I walked through, the dumpster corral doors are wide open. Both dumpster tops are wide open. There's a 20-foot trailer directly behind my house that is unlicensed. The building that's directly behind my house in number 60 is being fully renovated with no building permit in evidence. Number four, when Copperleaf was first proposed and going through the classification roulette game, Trustee Keating appeared to be taking the neighbors' concerns seriously. After the roulette wheel stopped on agricultural products and the trustees had to vote, Trustee Keating reversed his stance, and his final comments at the public hearing was, "I'm sure you'll be able to work everything out with the owner." It doesn't matter which owner. We've never been connected.
Excuse me 1 second, John. I want to bring us back to what the agenda item is about the expansion of outdoor seating. And I would like you to submit your concerns. Can you forward all of that to our building inspector and also to me?
So that means I'm not allowed to speak?
You are allowed to speak, but I would appreciate it if you would address the agenda item as requested.
Well, the whole crux of the matter is that this applicant mimics the owner of the property and has no respect for the village process.
I appreciate your input, but I don't believe there's an application before us. Steve, is there an application for seating?
No, they're not an application yet. And I would really like to respond if at all possible.
Whatever.
They shouldn't be doing work then. If there's
Well,
no.
Please submit your concerns. That's important.
Yeah,
We're looking at, the agenda item states that we're looking at expansion of outdoor seating. It doesn't say that it's particular to a specific restaurant. It appears that is a general resolution for the Village of Pittsford, which is why I'm stating a specific objection to Copperleaf, because they have absolutely no respect for the village process. So Steve,
Okay,
please,
thank you.
I'm
Thanks,
done.
John. Okay, no, I appreciate it. Thank you, John. Yes, Steve.
All right. First off, there is an approved site plan. There was an approved site plan made for 50 State Street. It is on the record. The site plan may not be complete, which is something I am researching, John. I just got all the paperwork and have been diligently researching all of what was originally approved, and will make sure that what was approved, if it's not completed, will be completed as part of my duties to the village. Second, there is no activity going on in a building without permits. The building in question, the far back barn, was demoed, but nothing is built inside. The other building.
Not the barn, it's the building behind my house. There were 14 contractors in there this afternoon.
They're doing interior work, John, to upgrade heating and air conditioning and a few things for the girl who is here to put a salon in there. That's not, the items that are interior are not necessary to have a permit that they are performing at this time. I have been in the building multiple times with the contractors.
Thank you.
I will address the action of the dumpsters and make sure they're closed and the enclosure is sealed up. My last comment is we cannot, or in my opinion, you cannot separate out one business compared to others. If we allow something to happen or allow people to use or a benefit, I don't believe we can section it off. That's my opinion.
Does our attorney want to weigh in on that, please? Jeff?
Well, presumably whatever you do is going to be constrained with specific parameters to whomever is granting whatever permit. But in terms of equal protection of the law, Steve is right. If you create a category and a business falls within the category, then you have to treat it like every other business in the same category.
And we have code enforcement for compliance. Okay. And another comment, Dorothea? Yes.
Yes, we have two comments from Emily Diaz. Could we make outdoor seating permanent, as many businesses have invested in this and it has been so popular with patrons? And then Mr. Art Pierce has comments. He said, well spoken, Justin. Establishments adjacent to residential properties are different from those which are not. Language covering Mr. Loth has just now stated should then be incorporated into any revisions of the resolution. Please note for the record that he echoed Mr. Limbeck's statements. And then I would say we're at a point where Justin Vleestra requested to comment.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vleestra, are you here?
Yes, thank you. I just want to reiterate on a few of the comments about, first of all, this outdoor seating, is this just to be a temporary thing for COVID? And if that's the case, I think some broad aspects of the proposal sound pretty reasonable. I heard Mr. Lightgib's comments regarding we have a zoning process for this, and permanent outdoor seating may make sense to revisit. But to echo what the building inspector said, so I sit on the zoning board and we've reviewed a handful of permits for these things, outdoor seating and so on for temporary events. And the primary things we look at is whether it interferes with the sidewalk, public safety, things like that. And I would agree that the building inspector could evaluate that. I also agree, however, that if it's in some distance of residential and there's a noise concern there, it makes sense to have a broader review of the matter. Maybe all of this can be captured into one, but I see not a whole lot of harm if this is a temporary matter. And we do have noise ordinances that can be used to enforce problems if this is a temporary matter. If it's going to be a permanent matter, I think it makes sense to look at it in more depth.
Thank you. Well put. Yes, Lily.
I've rather gotten lost regarding exactly what Mr. Vleestra just addressed. Are we addressing a specific business with these comments? Are we back to our original ordinance, or our temporary ordinance that we enacted regarding temporary outdoor seating? Because I think we were talking about two different issues. I think you wanted to address, unless I misunderstood, you wanted to address the issue of extending the outdoor seating irrespective of the governor's orders. The existing businesses who have outdoor seating presently, approved by the building inspector under the special use permit code. So that is what we're discussing. Is that correct? We're not discussing a business that does not hold a special use permit, did not go through the process of special use, did not go through site plan, did not go through parking. So we can't lump that under completely different criteria. It was evaluated and approved. It was not approved under special use permit. It is a separate issue. So I would like to make clear that that is what we are discussing. I believe that's the way you opened, Mayor Plummer, this discussion. And so I would like to bring it back to that discussion. And that is that currently outdoor seating is permitted in establishments that hold special use permits, and we're talking about allowing that to continue once those bans are lifted. Is that what we're discussing?
What we're discussing exactly is amending the resolution that we passed at the last meeting, because we, as I've mentioned, I'll just state it again, and then Steve, I do see your hand up, I'll get to you in 1 second, that is the agenda item that maybe we should take a look, because if the restrictions are lifted and we have the outdoor seating in place, do we, we have the language in there, whatever comes first. So all of that would literally go away in terms of outdoor seating, the way the resolution was passed at our last meeting. That's why we're bringing it back to this board, and also to have any additional consideration for other commercial uses that want to have outdoor seating. That's all that's before the board this evening. Steve.
I had two things. One thing, I would make a suggestion that you do put a limit on this. If you want to open it up, put a limit and see, don't make it permanent today, but let it go through October or the fall this year, see how it plays out. Then the board can make a choice, and if it would choose to do this permanent. But I would also make a request that the caveat of special permit gets removed from it, because you are going to leave Copperleaf out of it. And as Jeff stated, and I believe it is arbitrary. And John, I understand your concern, but they are farther away from you than Olives, where they would have their tables are on the far side of the building and farther away from you than Olives seating. I believe that we could have a problem if we leave them out and allow everybody else in.
So Steve, what other commercial entities in the village would potentially, would this affect if in fact we just said it's for commercial uses? What other businesses would be able to have outdoor seating?
I think they're the only other ones that have the capability of having a few outdoor tables. I don't believe there's another business in the village that has that possibility. We've already allowed.
The new bookstore would, because they have that. That's the only other one. I'm just saying that's the only other one I could think of.
Yeah, but I don't know that there's anybody else that has the space and ability.
The Tequileria might, the cupcake place might, I don't know.
Tequileria has it out back already, Dan.
But what about the front?
No,
the right of way, the nice dot right of way interferes with that. They wouldn't have enough room, right?
No,
am I correct?
I could not allow that out on the main sidewalk.
Yeah. Yes, Lily. Oh,
I'm going to go back again to what Mr. Loth has pointed out, and that is that to change now to allow outdoor seating for an establishment does not hold a special use permit it was not the process and the criteria that was used in allowing Copperleaf Brewery, which was, as I recall, an agricultural use. And that is the way that it was able to be approved and placed on this parcel, even though it was not an allowed use in the village of Pittsford. So a part of that agreement was that there would be no outdoor seating, there would be certain hours, there would be no food. It followed the criteria by the state established for agricultural brewers. So if you were to change that now, it is using a backdoor and circumventing our code. And I disagree with that. Steve, I understand, but I get very frustrated because I am a board member and we use you to gain information. I respectfully request that you not add your personal view on what the trustees should be doing or not doing. So I am going to say again, we have a code. This business was approved under that code by the Planning and Zoning Board, and they had a site plan and certain things were approved. And that to do this now is using a backdoor in order to obtain seating that was not permitted when it was first approved, and that was the understanding. And I do respect what the residents have been trying to convey, They shouldn't have to work so hard to have our board uphold the code of the Village of Pittsford. They should not have to work this hard. We are here as their servants, their public servants, to protect their interests, and that is what I'm doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Lily. Yeah, thank you for that. And Jeff, your hand's up, yes.
I just want to clarify what Steve said about equal protection. My point about equal protection was that if you open it up to one category of business, you can't then exclude anyone that falls within that category. Currently, the resolution includes only those with special permits. So I don't view the current resolution as violating equal protection. That's the only point I wanted to make. That's that implication, if I made that implication, was not correct.
Thank you. Thanks for that clarification. That's helpful. Yes, Steve.
Yeah, Lily, if the original approval, I completely understand if when the approvals were made for the brewery, it was specified that they couldn't have any outdoor seating or anything, then I completely understand your point and agree.
Thank you, Steve. Dorothea, I'm sorry, I just saw your hand was up. Yeah.
That's okay. We have several comments from the public. Some are quite lengthy and some don't actually follow the line of conversation. So if I skip someone, it's nothing personal. Did you want me to go through these as best I can to give the board a?
Sure.
Okay. This caller did not give a name. It says caller one. I also support John Limbeck's comments. Residential quality of life may be impacted when outdoor activity occurs near homes. Emily Diaz, or Gabriel Diaz, actually. I am optimistic that we can work through the issues Trustee Lightgib has voiced regarding general approval for outdoor seating. I agree with his sentiment that it needs to be done very carefully. I encourage the board to invest the time it takes to explore these issues and come to a consensus on wording that will make this happen, or at least encourage businesses to apply for outdoor seating. Dave Marshall, I agree with Justin Lightgib's comments. Public input is an important component of the approval process. Subjective CO approval should only be extended in a limited capacity. Should the board wish to update the codes to permit more permanent outdoor seating, let that code update occur after appropriate public input. Let's see. Art Pierce, he's focusing on Copperleaf. He's asking to speak. I once again question the board on that. He said Lily's question is the key critical question point is relates to outdoor seating resolution. Mr. Limbeck files an objection to his time being limited. Caller one, outdoor tables at Copperleaf would be very close to homes on State Street, could pose a nuisance. It is a unique situation. Dave Marshall, I concur that breweries and agricultural uses are decidedly different than restaurants and taverns. Let's see. Okay. There you go. I suggest the board also review the comments for more in-depth stuff related to Copperleaf and other concerns.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yes, Justin?
Yeah, I just wondered if it might be helpful to separate the two things that we're talking about in terms of this modification. One being the extension to October as opposed to whenever the executive order is lifted, and the other one being the expansion to different categories of businesses. Personally, in terms of the former, I was the one who suggested being specific about the soonest of either of the two dates. I don't have a personal preference on the matter. I think that I can see the point for it being October to give businesses more notice. So I don't personally have any objection to that. I do think the other point is much more nuanced and difficult to, I don't think it's something we want to rubber stamp. I think that we need to take into consideration the resident input. And if this is something that's being delegated to the building inspector, to me, it seems discretionary the way that we have not yet put parameters on that. And I don't think that's, personally, I don't feel that's appropriate to delegate to an administrative staff member of the village.
Thank you. Just so we're clear, again, we're going to be looking at the resolution. It's for discussion. I personally agree with so many of the comments. this is why we have discussions. You know, so it is abundantly clear that if we ever do want to expand categories or really look at something more permanent, there has to be more research, more public discussion about how we would proceed, if at all. So I'm in agreement with all of that. Are there any other comments? So is there a motion to, in some fashion, based on what we discussed, with just to, what is it, remove that last piece of the resolution from the meeting, you know, whichever comes first. I wish I had the language in front of me. I do not. A motion to amend it, so we just allow for that expansion of, not the expansion, but you know, the expansion of the time frame for outdoor seating. Yes, Justin.
Yeah, we could make it whichever is later rather than whichever is sooner.
Okay, so
Yeah, agreed.
do you want to make a motion? Justin?
Sure, I'll make a motion to amend the outdoor seating resolution to be the later of the lifting of the executive order or the October date.
I'll second that. Keating.
Okay, trustee Keating,
Keating, aye.
trustee Lightgib,
Like I.
trustee Lampier,
Lampier, aye.
trustee Stetser,
That's all right.
Mayor Plummer.
Plummer, aye.
Mayor Plummer, real quick, there's a last comment that came in. Our peers believes all comments should be read for the record in any way related to a matter at hand versus censoring. I'm not in the act of censoring. I'm trying to move the matter along, keeping it to the agenda topic. That is a decision I made. So if you have a problem with that, please, you can file that grievance with me directly. I'm not picking on anybody or choosing sides. I'm just trying to keep the matters moving along. And it's a lot to read when you fill a page. Just understand. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, Jeff?
I assume they're going to be part of the record in terms of they will be the comments accepted from the public during the discussion. Am I correct about that, Dorothea?
Yes, I will print them. I will add them to the record, to that file.
So they're
They
a part
will
of the
be there.
record. They will be part of the record.
Correct. Everything will be part of the record. Maybe I didn't read it publicly, but it is not also a public comment session that it makes it necessary.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I mean, I go back and I read the comments, you know, I think that's important. But again, it's about, you know, sticking to the agenda item. Thank you, Dorothea. Next item, stewardship committees for sustainability. This is something I would just like to discuss with the board. I have spoken briefly, I think, in some fashion with most of you, but I also wanted just to get some ideas and input. I really think that, you know, we're looking at climate change. I think we're trying to address, everybody, I think, is clearly aware of our environment. And I think as a village, it's important that we take a look at what we can do just even within our own community. And so I'm looking at setting up potentially stewardship committees. First of all, regarding our own yards, what we plant in our yards, looking at natives and looking at pollinators. Also looking at the People's Yard, which is the yard around Village Hall. And I believe that we should put in place best practices. To that end, we're actually getting our recycling bin up here. We didn't have one before. So I'm excited about that. And we're also going to be looking at planting natives around Village Hall and plants that are a little more compatible, and potentially eliminating some of the grass areas, particularly by the rear parking lot, where we could put in potentially pollinator gardens, working with our residents, and perhaps a cutting garden for people who just want to come and maybe pick a little bouquet, and of course leaving some for the bees. So that's part of it too. I'm looking for a committee for that. We'll also be putting this in the newsletter and also on our Facebook page as well, getting the word out. And also regarding our businesses in the village, I've already been in contact with some of our beauty salons about the type of waste that they generate and how they can incorporate green practices relative to recycling, because there's a lot of chemicals involved, and there's a number of businesses that handle specifically salon waste, and maybe we could put in place a type of pledge program to address some of those issues and really get the salons on board. Actually, the reception with that has been really great. And Jeff, you also mentioned another salon that recently came in, I believe, that is trying to incorporate those practices already. So this would be an expansion of that. Also, I don't know if some of you are aware, New York State is enacting a law for restaurants regarding food waste. And this law will be going into effect, I believe, within the next 18 to 24 months. So I think it's important that we also reach out to our restaurants regarding food waste and also, takeout material, all of that, the use of plastic. Again, this is something that I think we should all be looking at and having stewardship committees. Also, we do have the public land, the nature preserve, and I'm interested in setting up a stewardship committee for that. And again, with our village residents. Steve mentioned earlier that we need to have a site plan and we need to have community engagement. We all know to make sure that we're incorporating best practices for that last remaining bit of public space and getting volunteers and people to help. Our first phase is going to be to try to suppress and manage the invasives that are in there that are essentially crowding out whatever native species are left. So this was a different agenda item. It was item number 8, and I just wanted to refer to that and bring this up on the agenda now. I hope some of you had a chance to look at a survey that was done 23 years ago in that Northwest quadrant. It's a really interesting survey about the different habitats. For people that are viewing tonight, you can look at it online. It's part of the packet. And if you go through sort of the cataloging of plants and what are invasives and what are natives, 23 years ago, roughly speaking, it was 2 to 1 invasives relative to native plants. I would say now, having been on that property and also talking with people that are experts in the field, it's probably about 10 to 1 invasive plants to any natives. It's pretty overrun. So we have a program that we're going to be trying to put in place and working with our residents. So I just wanted to talk about this, bring this back to the board. I welcome everybody's input. That's what I'm thinking. Dan?
Love the ideas. Thank you, Elisa. Just one quick clarification. Are you proposing the same group kind of oversees or recommends and works on environmental issues as handles the Northwest quadrant, or are those two different groups that you
I think we need to have different groups because I think people have different interests, and thanks for bringing that up. In other words, I think we could really have a stewardship group that really looks at working around Village Hall, because I really think we can do some wonderful work here at Village Hall, again, with our best practices. And that could be a group that just is dedicated to that. I think there should be a separate group really focused on that Northwest quadrant and working with other volunteer groups going forward in our community as well. And again, with businesses, perhaps that could tie in also with the Village Merchants Association that's going to be starting up, taking a look at that and incorporating the sustainable actions there. Yeah, Renee? And then Lily.
Okay. This is a great idea, and I love engaging our residents. And how will we form this committee? Will we put out advertisements, and who will be the liaison or the point of contact at Village Hall?
Right now, I'd like the point of contact to be me. I'm really excited about this, and I've really been wanting to do something like this for a long time. We'll be putting the word out. I also have reached out specifically to some people regarding stewardship, because I know they have strong backgrounds in horticulture and environmental causes, and are quite knowledgeable. We really have, our residents are absolutely amazing. We have so many wonderful resource people here in our community. So, and we'll be getting the word out through social media and in a newsletter to make sure everybody knows what's going on, and hopefully people are excited about it. I did see just very quickly one little blurb, I think it was from Dr. Foss, saying native plants, there should be 70% of native plants on a parcel. She's absolutely right. I can tell she reads Doug Tallamy. Yeah, and so there's a number of resource people that we can connect with. I also have been in touch with the Cornell Extension as well. And for example, another person who lives in our village has also worked on the park system at the Seneca Zoo and has a background in horticulture. So there's a number of people in our community. That's a number of ways to reach out. Yes, Lily.
Yes, my question is regarding once the groups have been, the teams have been established, do they have to be chosen, or is just an interest sufficient to be a part of the committee?
Sorry, go ahead. I think it's a combination of both. I think really for stewardship committees, I'd like to, put people together to appoint almost like a comp plan committee and bring it back to the trustees. So we all take a look at who's really going to be on these committees. And then I certainly think we will need going forward, like either Friends of the Nature Preserve, just a much larger group of people who are interested, but maybe can't make that type of commitment, but want to, help when they can, or maybe come and help in the pollinator garden, something like that. So I see it as a combination, really.
So they will, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So they would bring their ideas or their concepts as a group to the trustees, and the trustees would then find ways to incorporate or make the plan happen.
Yes. For example, we're going to need a site plan for that nature preserve. And so, I see that as really engaging, the stewardship committee and the entire community, essentially a charrette, like this is open space. This is how do we move forward as a community, and what is it that we really want to see there in terms of how that's being managed. So I absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Any other thoughts? Oh, yes, Dorothea.
Okay, we have a couple comments. Person didn't give a name, but they said, I'd hope the status of the village hall as a historic structure will be considered in future landscaping choices. The building has had a mowed lawn since the building was built in 1854. The landscaping plan instituted in 1939 should also be considered. And then Ms. Foss also asked the question, how do we apply for a sustainability committee? And I believe Mayor Plummer just said she's working on reaching out through social media and getting those set up. So.
Great, thank you. All good comments, thank you. Any other thoughts? Just, okay. Moving forward. Auburn Line Park expansion, a discussion. Zach, at some point I may ask you to weigh in on this. We have the really cute pocket park, the really lovely pocket park down there. Right, for those of you who are not quite sure where that is, it's right next to the dairy on North Main Street and Robert's Kitchens. And Lily did a great job helping the scouts put that park together. One thing that came to my attention, and it was from a resident who was saying that there was sort of dumping and, it was looking a little untidy behind the park as you look back to the parking lot at Shane Place. There is that, I guess it's a retention pond really, where a lot of things just get dumped in. And so I wanted to bring this back to the board, if there would be a way, and we do know that RG&E needs to have access to their lines, but if there would be a way to maybe just put in some plantings of low-level natives, we maybe could do bluebells or trilliums, some spring plants through there, maybe some lower canopy plants such as dogwoods or redbuds. Again, because the vista, the view, that view shed, looking through, you're seeing parked cars. So we may have an opportunity, I think, to just enhance that a little bit and also put in some natives. Zach, did you want to add anything before we start discussion?
No, I think you covered most of it.
It's pretty much what we were talking about. Just, nothing over the top, but just really sort of making sure that it's cleaned up a little bit, that it becomes something that's, our community can be proud of, and also sustainable. Yes, Lily.
Yes, thank you. As you pointed out, it is RG&E held property, so I believe we would need their permission. The second part of it is that there's a huge cement monolith there behind that fence, which is part of the reason why the Eagle Scout put the fence. So that would have to stay, and you're going to have to just love it and plant things on top of it, I guess, moss or something. However, now the question is also that would there be any clearing done? And because it abuts a National Historic Registered property, does that mean that we have to do a type 1 seeker before anything happens? That is a question. And also getting permission from RG&E. And the third question is just a personal observation. Zachary, who are you going to send in there to clear out that poison ivy? Who's that lovely person that you're going to send there? Because I feel for them.
Hopefully the Boy
I remember Joan went in to try to do that, and my gosh, she was covered with poison ivy. So that is something. That's just an aside. I'm just saying you want to be cognizant of that. That's why the scout didn't go back there. He put a line right there.
Quick question, because I think you raised an interesting point about seeker, because it's adjacent, to an historic landmark. Was seeker done for the pocket park? Was that?
That was a subject that came up later after the Eagle Scout had got. He was responsible for getting all of the necessary permits and so forth, RG&E, write-off, all that sort of thing. Okay. However, at that time, all landscaping projects were deemed to be type 2 actions. So that is why type 1 didn't occur. So, however, going forward, we want to make certain that we're doing it correctly. So it could be that it might indeed trigger. I'm not certain. So it's something that we would want to look into.
Sure. Yep, that's why we're just talking about it here. Yes, Dorothea, your hand's up.
Yep, I had a resident caller one. They questioned, what is the pollinator garden? So I figured you're talking the gardens and might be a time to let the public know what that is.
Well, a pollinator garden helps bees. Bees need to, and as many people know, we're losing a lot of our bees. And so pollinators are different flowers, typically native. They can be also some that are just either perennial or annual flowers, meaning that, they just either reseed or they don't come back. And it's also helps birds and hummingbirds also. And so that's what a pollinator garden is in just the briefest sense. Yeah, Jeff, did you want to weigh in on the thought about seeker at all, or you want to? I mean, we're just talking through this, so.
I think that's going to depend exactly on what you're going to plan on doing.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts about the idea of natives or? Nope. Okay. Well, I think just in terms of a next step, I think Lily's right. We need to speak with RG&E, and I believe it also, I think it's the Degenhart property that abuts the other side. So, we would want to certainly address that and, get a little bit more information. I mean, I hope people think it'd be a nice idea to just, if we can do this, to maybe just incorporate some more native plants back there and clean it up a little bit. Because right now there's also some invasives that are in there too. And we've gone through that with the DPW, and it's not a big job to clear it out, as Zach said, but once we clear it out, if we plant some natives, I think it'll be a lot easier actually to maintain. All right. Thank you. Next item.
Before we go on to the next one, this is a question for the trustees and Dorothea. I am not in favor of reading questions and submissions that are anonymous. I think if it doesn't have a name attached to it, that we shouldn't read it. That's my basic stance on it. What do you guys think?
Well, we are supposed to state our names and addresses for the record if we're speaking as a member of the public.
Right.
I mean, you know, it's a matter of record.
Yeah, so anything from an anonymous person in a chat, I would suggest we don't read those.
Okay.
Yeah, Dorothea, yeah. Did you?
That's fine. I try to not to read anything that's looking to be difficult or whatnot. I guess that's the wrong word. Arbitrary or,
Not pertaining.
honestly, yeah. The one about the pollinator garden, I was kind of interested myself. So.
Sure. Yeah, I still think anonymous, but it's set up,
Yep.
something more aggressive than that. So I just think anonymous questions shouldn't be fielded.
That's fine. Whatever the board
Can I?
requests.
Excuse me, Jeff? Yes.
Well, I'm wondering if they ought to be part of the record either, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It may be that Dorothea should not put them in the record if they're anonymous.
I mean, we certainly state in the beginning of the meeting, please state your name and address for the record. You know, we're all participating in the meeting. So I have no problem with that. Okay. Next item, Ethics Board appointments. We currently do not have an Ethics Board, and we certainly need to have one here in our village to handle, certain complaints as they come up. So I just wanted to make the board aware that I'm looking at candidates. I will be placing before you 3 candidates that I would like to appoint. It'll be at the next meeting, and they will be forwarding their background information to all of you for your review. And I think there are 3 strong candidates that have backgrounds, having served either on other ethics boards or having direct legal expertise in the field. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Yes, Dan.
Thank you, Elisa. One of the things that we talked about before you got on this board, so this, I'm sorry we didn't get to talk about this offline, was whenever there's an opening for a board, publishing that somehow on, the village, on the village Facebook page, just soliciting people to apply for it. And whether those people, whether we get anybody who applies, I don't know. Whether they're the right candidates, that's not up to me, but just have a more open process in terms of soliciting candidates. Would you be comfortable doing that? Or do you want to think about it?
Yeah, I would like to think about it, and I'll tell you why. There hasn't been an ethics board actually for a while. And I think it's important that we move quickly because we do have some outstanding issues that need to be addressed. And so I would like to think about that, and I appreciate you bringing that up. So.
Yeah, it's just a matter of transparency and recruiting. And
no, I understand that. I understand that for sure. I get that. Thank you, and thanks for that. Definitely. Renee?
I would like to just echo Dan. He and I have been in agreement on this since I joined the board. So I respect your decisions, but I would like to express the same sentiment about including the public if possible, whether we get anyone good or not.
I get it. Some of these issues have they go way back, and so I think we have to balance that. There are things that just quite simply have not been addressed for months and months and months and months. So I was a little surprised that there actually was not an ethics board. But I certainly am open to that. I just am concerned because some of these things have been outstanding for quite a while. Yes, Justin?
Yeah, I would like to echo Trustee Keating's and Trustee Setzer's sentiments about transparency in selecting the members of the board and public solicitation of applicants. And I wanted to propose another possible solution to this problem about the timely need to respond to complaints that have been filed, as well as to have transparency around our processes for selecting board members. And specifically, when I'm looking at Chapter 21 of the code, which is the Ethics Board Code, and which is is a very strong code. I think, you know, compared to some other ones that I've read in Monroe County, I really think that we need to applaud the former trustees who wrote that code. It seems like there is an option, and we actually don't have to convene an ethics board. Specifically, if you look at 21-20C, and in the case that we don't convene an ethics board, then all matters would be referred to the County Board of Ethics. And I think there are a lot of reasons that that's the right thing to do here. First of all, the village is very small, and we've had trouble staffing the volunteer boards in the past. And in fact, in the last code update, I believe that we opened up more slots for town residents in part because of those difficulties. I think that because of the small size of the village population and the eligible people who want to do this, you're likely to have people who know people involved in the complaints on one side or another. And so since they're likely to be biased, I think that they would come up with unethical decisions, and we don't want an unethical ethics board. I think that's something that we should really watch out for. The other, if you wouldn't mind, I just have two other comments related to this. I think that constituting a new board involves time and cost, and I think that especially since we don't have to constitute an ethics board, we could choose to spend our time and money elsewhere. And I'm also concerned about issues of liability and legal expenses. I assume that when the decisions are made by the ethics board, they can also be appealed, and that involves legal costs to represent those boards and possibly liability on the part of the village. So for all those reasons, I think that it would satisfy all of our concerns about transparency and timeliness if we just resolve to not convene an ethics board and referred everything to the County Board of Ethics. One last comment on that, I did reach out to a county legislator, Howard Mafucci, and I asked him if there is a county ethics board, and he said there is.
Yes, indeed, there is. Of course there is. Thank you so much for those comments. I would like Dorothea to weigh in on this, because at any point in time, any of these complaints could have gone to the county. And Dorothea has some experience with this. And so I think it's important that the public hears this. I also want to just say regarding the transparency, since we already have 3 trustees that feel strongly about that, I think rather than my trying to think about this offline, we should probably just put this out to the public and see who wants to be on an ethics board. I also, Jeff, I'd like you to weigh in after Dorothea speaks, please, on this matter.
I have been requesting that the ethics board be seated. We did have a seated ethics board at one point. Those positions, due to inactivity or retirements, moving away, we lost those members. And I think it's essential to have a board in place. And given that I'm sitting on some complaints, and I have requested in the past that these be sent to the county or something be done or a board be seated. I've been requesting that for a while, and we haven't had that action. So the board needs to make a decision which way they're going to go. And my concern is getting the complaints where they need to get. That's all I can say to that, really.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Lily, and then Jeff. Jeff, I'd like you to weigh in on this as well. Yes, Lily.
Okay. Thank you. I apologize, Dorothea, but I do not recall it being brought before the board as an opportunity. In other words, nothing was brought to the board, as to my recollection, unless Renee can remember or Dan can remember, that we were asked to send anything to the ethics committee or to be sent to Monroe County as a referral. I can't imagine that we would have denied that request. So I don't know that it was brought before the board as a request to send it on to Monroe County.
I want to, you asked a specific question, so I'd like to answer.
Okay, hang on one second, Dan. Dorothea, did you want to respond to that, or should I go to Dan?
Real quick, yes. I did ask the board about sending these complaints to the Monroe County Ethics Board and asked them what they would like to do. That was, I believe, in March. The former mayor, I was in continued conversations with him and requested that he seat an ethics board. That has been going on for quite a while. And that was delayed due to whatever reason. It never happened. We wanted to handle it in-house, and therefore things kind of went into a lull. So, but I did bring this to the board's attention as things, you know, were
Okay.
changing, that we really needed to get this handled.
Okay, I apologize. I didn't recall it being brought to us as saying, would you like to refer this to Monroe County? I didn't recall that question. Sorry, memory's faulty.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, thank you, Lily. Yes, Dan, and then Jeff, I'd like you to weigh in also relative to expense of this board and legal fees. Yes, Dan.
So real quick, I was going to say exactly what Dorothea said. So I really just want to back Dorothea in that. I remember it was an executive session, I believe. And it was mid to late March, somewhere around there. I very specifically remember her bringing this issue to the trustees.
I do too. March is my recollection.
Okay, so we're moving forward here. Yeah, Jeff, if I'd like you just to weigh in on this relative. Also, my understanding is that there's no cost for this board. This is a volunteer board of our residents.
Yeah, that would be true, but I think Trustee Lightgeb is talking about, for instance, if somebody was not happy with an ethics opinion, the subject of the complaint not happy, would they have some kind of appeal?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just in the middle of reading what.
Mm-hmm. They would still have that right with the county, though, wouldn't they?
They would.
Sure.
Well,
they have a right, yeah. But we're not hearing you.
Advisory opinion based on the thorough review of the facts and the law. The board's opinions to be solely on the facts presented.
You're fading in and out, Jeff.
Sorry. So basically, the board issues an advisory opinion.
Mm-hmm. And make a recommendation.
Right. And I just need I guess I'd like a little time to tell the board what I think the legal implications to the village are of convening a board of ethics versus sending out the complaints to the county. I really gotta look at this pretty thoroughly to be sure what I'm saying is correct.
All right. Okay. So let's do this then as an action item. One, I'm in agreement. Let's open this up if we are going to be doing a village ethics board. Oh, I'm sorry, Renee, your hand was up. I'm sorry. I didn't see you. I apologize.
No, I wanted to wait till Jeff was finished. That's fine. The first question is there any cost to us if we refer it to if we use the county ethics board instead of convening a village board? And then Jeff's statement sort of overtook my other question, which is going to be what is the downside of having the county handle it? Because to Trustee Lightgeb's point about how small our village is, would an ethics board in Monroe County be better able to be objective about some of these issues?
You know, I think they're all interesting points. I'm concerned that we would think that because we're a small village that people really weren't able to be objective, or if they had a strong relationship with one of the people that maybe had a complaint filed against them, that they would know to recuse themselves, and there would be perhaps an alternate or another board member to step in, just as we do with any board in our village, just as we do with any board. So I'm a little concerned that we're sort of going down that path as though they couldn't do their jobs. You know, I can tell you one person that I did speak with serves on the ethics board for the Monroe County Bar Association. So, you know, I think they know their stuff, and that's one of the candidates. So, you know, I think we're kind of looking for a solution maybe to a problem that doesn't actually exist.
When is the last time we had an ethics board?
I think
is it normally a long-standing thing? And
yeah.
They just, okay.
5 years ago when I was a trustee, there was an ethics board.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so this isn't anything unusual. And in fact, we really should should always have one in place as needed. You know, they don't meet regularly. They only meet as needed, as if there is, for example, a complaint that comes along. Yes, Dan?
I just want to take one quick moment to, this is, I think, sounding more negative than any of us intended to. I think we are all very glad that you've taken the initiative to execute on something that should be done. We'll figure it out in time, and so thank you for that. I just want to give it a little bit of a positive support.
Thank you. We need this. We need to take action. Yes, Dorothea.
Real quick, I will say that NICOM does recommend each municipality have a seated ethics board. Having your county available to you is a luxury, but having your own ethics board gives you a quicker action if you have a concern. And if the item does become something they feel that board can't handle, you would have the option to send it to the county always. I don't think that goes away.
County's always an option, for sure.
So it sounds like we should have our own board.
You should.
And we
Absolutely.
normally do. It's just that we have somehow let it slip.
It has slipped.
Yes, Jeff, thank you. Yes.
All right, I've taken the intervening minutes to take a look at this. First of all, I think the grammar in our enforcement section is not right, but basically Trustee Leitgeb is correct that so the Board of Ethics refers a recommendation to the Board of Trustees, and the Board of Trustees then acts. And anytime the Board of Trustees acts as the final municipal decision maker, that is always subject to an Article 78 proceeding challenging the decision. I guess the question is going to come down to, you know, are you going to get out of the ethics business because of the threat of future potential legal challenges to appropriate decisions? You know,
so let's extrapolate on that. Let's just follow that whole line of thought. Then all of our boards are subject to an Article 78 based on their decisions. Am I correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay, so in terms of our exposure, it's all the same across any board. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Where are we going with this? We
So
need enough.
I kind of couple it with Dorothea's statement about NICOM's recommendation, which for me carries an awful lot of weight. I mean, they're the people that we defer to many times when we have questions about what we ought to do as a municipality. And, you know, I think that the issue of adding another layer of possible litigation is one that needs to be discussed. I mean, it really does. But to your point, that is a risk that you have anytime you establish a board.
Yep. Yes.
A decision-making board.
Right. Understood. Thank you. Thank you. You know, this is really helpful. This is really helpful. Thank you. Yes, Renee.
So will this board, or did this board have legal consultation just like our other boards, our other independent boards do, to help guide them in their decisions?
Yes, Jeff.
That has never come up. They did not have an appointed attorney. And I would suggest that because it's a recommending board, not an action board, that, you know, I would feel uncomfortable saying that village attorney should be advising the ethics board how to formulate its decisions. You know, I think that's uncomfortable because I would be possibly advising them and then advising the Board of Trustees on whatever referral was made to them from the ethics board. So I'd be working both ends of the process, and I don't think that sounds great. I can't imagine that there is going to be a lot of call for legal expertise, particularly if, as Mayor Plummer has indicated, we've got an attorney who's sitting on the Bar Association Code of or Ethics Committee. I mean, that attorney's going to bring with him or her the full range of what's appropriate and not appropriate.
And they also have a background in employment law. Another person I spoke with served on an ethics boards for hospitals. And another person I spoke with was former legal counsel to Kodak. So, you know.
I just can't imagine.
Pardon me?
I can't imagine a board of that composed of that kind of people would need additional legal help.
But you know, I mean, I think this is a really good discussion. And again, I do want to circle back. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Justin. I didn't see your hand. Yes.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I appreciate the discussion on this as well, and Mr. Turner's opinions also. I also agree that the NICOM recommendations carry a lot of weight. As I just pulled up the NICOM handbook here, I didn't find exactly what Dorothea was speaking about. Not to say it doesn't exist, but in the handbook, what they actually do is that they separate out the ability for municipalities to create ethics boards that act in an advisory capacity, and then goes on to say that they may also take complaints. And I think that the what I could see is that perhaps NICOM recommends elsewhere that municipalities form an ethics board that acts in an advisory capacity about things like appearances of impropriety and when somebody should recuse themselves. I think that, you know, most people would agree that that's a good thing and not likely to be very controversial. I think the issue at hand here is about fielding of complaints. And I think that's where it gets into more of a sticky situation with a small village, you know, regardless of the side that someone is on. It seems like there are likely to be personal relationships, and I don't think that that's necessary to bring into the village.
Thank you for that input. Yes, Dan?
Just real quick, I appreciate that, Justin, but a quick Google search versus Dorothea's experience, I'm going to weigh it differently, and we'll all do our own homework, but I support Dorothea.
Sorry, just to respond to that, I did not do a Google search. I looked at the NICOM handbook, and I also defer to Dorothea's experience. I'd like to look at the sources that she's looking at as well to be able to come to the table to discuss this more fully.
I meant Google search in the metaphorical sense. You just looked it up just now. So, all right, thank you.
Mayor
Okay.
Plummer, we have some comments from the public on this matter. Do you want me to review?
Sure.
Okay, Dave Marshall says he sincerely agrees with Justin Lightgib's comments 100%. This should be referred to the county. It's not a simple matter of a mayor referring an ethics complaint. Is it not a simple matter of the mayor referring an ethics complaint to the county? As a resident, Sue Emmel says, as a resident, I too echo Trustee Keating, Stetzer, and Lightgib on the matter of establishing an ethics board. It is of utmost importance to exercise the best ethical practices in the application, selection, and appointment of candidates. Time should not be a factor. Mr. Reynolds comments that I agree with Justin. County can handle this better than we can. He followed up again. Mike Reynolds, agree with Justin. County can handle this better than we can. Okay. Dave Marshall, we are a small village. Ethics determinations by residents within a small community may not engender the type of neighborliness that we should all prefer, and most certainly could be seen as a political bias based on mayoral appointments. Why not take the same volunteer time and redirect it to contribute to the arboretum or sustainability? Mr. Marshall, again, the appointment of an ethics board after a complaint has already been filed could in itself be considered an ethical question of appropriateness.
I just want to address one of those things. Why not take the same volunteer time and redirect it to contribute to the arboretum or sustainability? I'm quite sure that maybe you're going to find a person who's equally qualified for an ethics board and that kind of environmental work, but those are two very different skill sets. That's apples to oranges. So thanks.
I would like to point out really quick, these complaints haven't been reviewed by anybody but myself. I haven't shared them with a single board member, with an attorney, with anybody. And they sit in a locked drawer until they can be resolved. So nobody has any idea of what I have, to put it bluntly. And
that's how it's handled.
Work in the HR, I'm not going to share unless I'm thrown darts at with large machetes. So no, no one has seen these complaints. So I am not worried about a new ethics board being tainted or chosen because of that.
I have no idea what any of this is about, other than we do need an ethics board. There was an ethics board when I was trustee. They came up with a finding. They made a recommendation. I don't think anybody who was serving on the board at that time had any issue at all with the village-based ethics board. We could say the same thing about any other board that we have in our village. We all know each other. We are a small village. Again, consider it as a jury of your peers. You know, you're upholding your duty. I'm frankly, I'm a little shocked that we would think that if somebody had some type of a relationship with whoever is brought before them relative to a complaint, that a board member would not, just as we all do before every single meeting, you either disclose or you recuse. Someone tell me now what that difference would be.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Thank you.
We're a village, you know, at the end of the day, we're all neighbors. And if we do know each other, then, you know, and you feel that there is in some sense of impropriety or compromise relative to the duty that you are supposed to perform, then you recuse. That's how we move. Okay, so moving forward, I do think that we should open it up and I agree with trustees Keating, Stetzer, and Lightgab. I think you're absolutely right. That's great. Thank you for bringing that up. Let's open it up to villagers. If people want to apply, we can put that out in our newsletter and on our website. I think that'd be great. And it has to be a village resident. Okay, any other thoughts on that?
No.
Okay.
Do we have a time frame? That's my only question. Sorry.
Yeah, we would need a time frame, you know, and I'd like it sooner than later. Let's see, what's our date today? May 11th. If we can, well, we could put this out. Well, Dan, you're going to be talking about the newsletter too. So.
Yeah, and really could put it up on the Facebook page tomorrow if you want to.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, you know, there's certainly ways we can turn that around, and we can also do a posting even on our homepage, on our website, or
an email list.
Yeah, exactly.
We can get the word out if we want to.
For sure, for sure.
So we need kind of a description of the position and where they should send a resume, and that's it.
Yep, exactly. And so it's the 11th. I mean, I would think it would be fair, what, a 2-week window? Put it out there for a couple of weeks. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm seeing a nod and a thumbs up. I think that's pretty fair. You know, people read stuff. Okay, so let's get on that. That's great. And Dan, can I work with you on that just to pull that together, just the language, because you're also helping with the newsletter and media.
Sure.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, which brings us to the next item, developing a newsletter.
Yeah. All right, guys. So my question is, how do we want to do this? So I put a bunch of subjects up there on a Google Doc. I know, Renee, you gave some input on it. I don't know if the other trustees and the mayor have had a chance to look at that. It's pretty basic stuff, but somebody, you know, if you have ideas that you want to see written up, put them up there. And then once we kind of have that done, we're going to ask various people to write various pieces of it and put it together that way. So, Jeff, you have a question?
Yes, Jeff.
Yeah. Do you want me to stick around for the rest of this stuff? It doesn't look like there's a whole bunch of attorney stuff.
Yeah, I think I think we're good unless you want to write something for the newsletter.
I'll pass.
Okay.
Okay. No legal treatise. Okay. Thank
No,
you so much
no.
for your help tonight, Jeff. Have a great
All right,
evening.
I'm taking a hard look at the ethics enforcement section because I don't think it's written correctly.
Okay.
So anyway, all right. Everybody have a good night.
Yeah,
Thanks, you
let's
too.
revisit that offline. We'll talk tomorrow.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
So why don't I just set an arbitrary date of, kind of send in your ideas before Friday, and we'll divvy up who's going to write what. We'll have a draft. We'll run it by, everybody has a chance to give comments on the draft. Elisa is the ultimate decider as to what is the final editor, and then it gets sent. We give it to, I think it's Marina has MailChimp experience. We're using MailChimp, right? No?
Constant
Constant
contact.
Contact.
Constant contact.
Okay. Constant Contact. So yeah.
So by Friday, we need to chime in on the document, let you know our ideas, and then we'll divvy it up and write everything. And then what's our deadline for having everything written?
Another week, maybe. I'm envisioning, a paragraph or two per issue, not on each of them. So it should be pretty easy to do. And I'm willing to write it. The other thing we can do is you can just call me and tell me the information, and I'll take some notes and then write it down. That's something I do really quickly. So yeah, I think another week on the writing, and then we put it together and it's out the door by the end of May.
Great.
That's very possible.
Great, Dan, that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for honchoing.
Sure.
Any other thoughts on this? Good. Dan, did you have something more to add? I'm sorry.
No, I have member items, but we're not there yet.
Oh, no, we're not quite there. We're inching towards that.
Yeah.
Okay. Next item. Boy Scout project requirements. This sort of grew out of, how we have the Eagle Scouts, or Scouts that want to go for Eagle badges. So just to help sort of get a little process in place about how they can work with our village hall, and maybe we can have some ideas for Scout projects as well. And I know Lily and I were speaking about that, and I'd asked Lily to have some ideas about how to put the guidelines together for Scouts.
I did, and I did speak to 2 Eagle Scouts, current Eagle Scout and one working towards his status. And they made it clear to me that they have a very concise set of guidelines that they have already in place that are given to them, and step by step explains the process and what they need to do. And beyond that, I didn't know exactly how we would need to add to that. It clearly spells out to them that they are to go to the municipality, which they, in every case that I've worked with an Eagle Scout over the last 6 or 7 years, they have all done that. They've all come to the village. They've all explained their project. The trustees have listened, and then they have either approved or not approved the concept, and then they kept the trustees informed pretty much all through that process. The young man who's currently working on his Eagle Scout project in the village, he has, I don't want to call it it was more stretched out. His timeline was more stretched out. And so he's just now getting the information. They all work differently too. Each gentleman works a little bit differently than others. But the guidelines they explained to me are in place. It's a handbook that they have, and they have to check off each one, and you have to sign it off for them, and which I have done. Each time they've come to me and met with them, and I sign off on that part that they completed it for the village. So it's already in place. I didn't know what else. Maybe there was a different idea that you had.
Thank you for that. No, I mean, I think, we're looking at what happens on the Scout side of things. I can tell you that I had a personal experience. I was meeting friends to go for a hike, and we were meeting in front of Village Hall, and as I was waiting for them, somebody just walked up and started to take the historical sign marker down. And I had, I had no idea what that was about. And they said they were a scout and they had a project, and that was sort of in the ether. And I think this is more on our side of it. So we're all aware of projects where they are in the pipeline when a scout comes to us. There's another project that, and maybe Dorothea and Zach can speak to this, that's currently, I guess, underway, where there maybe hasn't actually been an approval for it by the board. And so I think it's more like our process when a scout comes to us, what do we have to make sure we kind of have all of our ducks in a row as well. It's much less about their procedure internally for their scouts. Dorothea, you may want to weigh in on this a little bit, and Zach as well, in terms of, because some of these projects involve DPW working with them as well, that kind of thing. So, Dorothea?
I would touch on, Lily, that recently we had a scout working on a project that the board was not aware of might have been aware of the historic signs. We weren't aware of the schedule and this and that, and that is something that was concerning when a couple of the historic signs disappeared and we did not receive that knowledge. I think that's important for the board. Yeah, I think that's important for the board to know the project, and I don't recall that one appearing in front of the board and getting an approval. I could be wrong. Do you recall that? I know it was brought up. I don't think it ever had an approval.
Okay. I would like to clarify that. Thank you. Number one, there is a scout, Eagle Scout, who is working on a project currently, and that is the replacement of the flag holders along Main Street and at part of State Street. And yes, he did come before the board, and yes, he did receive approval. The second young man who's working on the historic markers that you mentioned, he also received approval, but he received approval from the town. And the reason he received approval from the town is that it was determined by the town of Pittsford that his particular project was under the jurisdiction of the town because the historic markers belong to the town of Pittsford, specifically the town historian's office. And that was their determination. And so this young man moved forward with that information, which he believed to be correct and was told to be correct. And it wasn't an assumption. He knew it to be correct. And so when he removed the markers, I think a polite thing, yes, have been for somebody, and I'm going to say whoever his sponsor was, to alert the village that this would be occurring as a courtesy. But they really didn't need our permission because those signs belong to the town of Pittsford.
Interrupting, but they were coming on village property as well.
I understand that.
And hammering and trying to take away a sign. What if they were injured? There's just some things.
Yeah, it was a courtesy that should have been. Yes, it was a courtesy. That's all right. It was a courtesy that should have been extended. The other sign was replaced. There were two signs that were removed. One was at the Auburn Line Park. Now that later it was clarified that sign actually does belong to the village of Pittsford. It was purchased by the village, and he replaced it. He put it back. So it was just the one sign, which once upon a time sat at the four corners. And when they widened the four corners, that sign was then placed on in front of Village Hall. So the town historian, who was directed that this was under her jurisdiction, gave the young man permission to remove the sign. And, as I reiterated, he believed he had permission. So he didn't believe he was doing anything wrong. And yes, he did go through all of the process. He went to the town board. He gave his presentation. They gave him his approvals. And so he was operating under the assumption or the knowledge that he was acting correctly. So if we have different criteria, I think that was a very unusual circumstance, but typically they know very well that they come to the municipality and they get their required approvals. And that was absolutely understood. There was no question. But he got town approval. He didn't get village because he was never told that he
Understood.
needed it. He
No,
did
and
need it.
thanks for clearing that up for everybody, because, we thought the signs were stolen. We just
Oh, I
didn't-
did as well. It was on Facebook, and I immediately said, "Where's our?
I know.
Where's our sign?" It was an Eagle Scout project, so it was ironic that this young man was also. Yeah.
Know what's going on with the process. Zach, you had something? Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm meeting with Nick Prone tomorrow afternoon to go over the locations of all the flag holders that are going to be the new installation of flag holders, and then
I'll be there. I'll be there with him.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Real quick on the flag holders. I reviewed those minutes. The young man didn't get a motion in second. Now, is that something that should be happening with these? Because I didn't see that happen. He did go over it. He was supposed to meet with Zach. There was going to be talking about the budget involved for the project, but there actually wasn't a motion in a second for approval. So if we need to do that for these projects,
Yeah, we do.
we should do that tonight if the board wants him to move forward, because then technically then we did give it the full approval. I think and I think when we're talking criteria, that's the things we need to let them know they need from us is this and this and this, and for us to know that we need to go through that steps. That way everybody's on the same page. I mean, whatever they're required to do, we can put that right up on our website. You got an Eagle Scout project, this is what you need to do. They know that and they can find it right on our site as well.
Okay, so you want to put it on the website.
Yeah. So Lily, I think it's really about what the process is that an Eagle Scout goes through on our side, not so much what is internal for their troop in terms of what they're looking for. And I think that's helpful. Also, I think it's great the Scouts learn about a municipal process,
Okay.
They see the government in action. So then we should probably make a motion.
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we approve the project of Eagle Scout candidate Nick do you remember his last name? Is it Parada? What is it?
Prone.
Okay. Thank you. To replace the caps and pole holders with the flags, the American flags that line Main and State Streets. That is his project.
And
the minutes, do you remember the date of the minutes? I'm sorry.
August 11th.
August 11th, as outlined in the minutes of August the 11th.
Is there a second? I'll second.
Roll call, Trustee Keating.
Keating, aye.
Trustee Stetser.
Stetser, aye.
Trustee Lightgib.
Lightgib, aye.
Trustee Lampier.
Lampier, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Plummer, aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, great. So, just to close this out, let's just close this out quickly. This is really about what the Scouts understand what the process is on our side, that this is what we do. It comes before the board, they do the presentation. Then to close that out for the Scout, we make the motion to approve, in this instance, the project. So the Scout understands now they have the permission from the municipality to move forward with it. Okay, great. All right. Okay, the last item, our village office is going to be reopening on this coming Monday, the 17th. The state has lifted the, what's the word? Not the lockdown, but they've released the guide. What is it? What am I saying, Dorothea?
Yeah, it's almost 9:30. I can't find the language either. I think they've loosened the restrictions.
Thank you.
There you go. Whoa. Yes, they've loosened the restrictions on a lot of the businesses and the occupancy. And I think with the codicil, as Mayor and Plummer and I have discussed, we're willing to open the office, let the American Legion open up. I still have concerns for the meeting room.
Yeah, and let's just talk about that a little bit more. We're really trying to figure out the logistics of holding distance meetings in the room. And just so you know, the town's having the same kind of issues. Everybody's trying to work their way through it. So we are going to be staying with the video meetings going forward. And I know Trustee Lightgab, you've also helped out looking at how do we set up to continue to have not only meetings in person at some point, but also to be able to have the video as well, which I think is important because Dorothea has noted on several occasions, we've had greater participation actually with the capability of streaming our meetings. And I think that's wonderful and should be continued no matter what.
Yeah, I would comment at this hour of night, we have 26 people in this meeting. So that's 19 people that must be nothing on TV. That's all I can say. But they are here with us right to the bitter end. So we need to add this component to our meetings as well.
Yeah. So, it's not that we're not going to do it. It's just how do we get our logistics so everybody's safe. We're still following the protocols that we all still need to follow. But certainly on Monday, people will be able to come in. We'll take your temperature. And we have, protocols in place, but it's lifting that restriction. Yeah. Steve, did you have something to say? Were you raising your hand?
No, I was going to comment on the Tuesday night TV thing, but that's okay.
Okay.
Nothing could be more exciting than this. That's the truth.
It's riveting. Yeah. And it's an ongoing series. Okay. Anything else about the opening? Yes, Renee.
So do we need to follow any special protocols? I haven't had a meeting there, like if we're having a small group meeting with 2 or 3 people, can we do those yet? And what process do you want us to follow? If we
I think a small group like that, we would be comfortable seating. It's anything more than that, it gets a little tricky with the setting up of the room. We can easily set the tables wide enough for a small group. I would say notification that the group is coming. We want to make sure the cleaning and protocols are in place, taking temperatures, doing everything we can to make sure everybody's safe and making sure everybody is wearing their mask as well. That is something we will ask the public to do, is please wear a mask into the office. We have tax season coming. If you're uncomfortable coming into the office, we have our mail slot right on the side. Please slide it in there. We'll get your receipt out to you as quickly as we can. But I think with those type of protocols in place, we can comfortably allow a very small meeting, with 2 or 3, 4 tops. I don't want to get too big because, as everybody knows, our meeting room, it's very lovely, but it's very small. And trying to keep everybody safe and everybody comfortable is the intent.
Okay, so our meeting for tomorrow morning, for example, the meeting with Captain Alberti, which is the first meeting that Mayor Plummer and I are having with the new Zone A captain, and we're planning to meet outside Village Hall so we can walk around, but can we come in or not yet tomorrow?
Oh, you can come in tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, and we need him to come in because we have other things we'd like to discuss with him that are internal. Thanks for bringing that up. Also, just very quickly too, we're looking into maybe getting some kind of outdoor seating behind the building, a table maybe and some chairs, so people can hold distance meetings outside. As you know, the CDC has lifted some of those restrictions as well for people being outdoors. So we're trying to look at a couple of different variations of this so we can make sure everybody feels safe and still can hold some meetings. So thank you. Okay. Member items. Yes, Dan.
I'll go really quickly. Had a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce this morning, and one thing we talked about that I wanted you to know about was cleanup day, but Elisa already covered that, which is wonderful. The other thing that wanted to relay to everybody was that given the way that COVID is going, the group feels like we should be planning to have some, excuse me, some kind of candlelight night. What that means, we don't know yet, but given the way the numbers are trending and how long it takes to plan that thing, they are convening a group to get going on that. More information to come.
Okay.
Just so you guys know, we got Elise and I got an email from the CCA from Sue, who we mentioned earlier, Sue Hughes Smith, saying the bids come back on June 1st, and she has scheduled a meeting with Elisa and I for like 12:30 that day to review them real quick and we'll report as soon as we got them. But it's either going to be mathematically in our favor or it's not. It's pretty black and white. So that's coming up. The other thing is, and this is my last member item, is that we got a really wonderful email from a Pittsford resident today saying, hey, Gay Pride Month is coming up. It's the month of June, and this resident, would be happy to provide you with a flag to fly at Village Hall. And would you consider doing that? And so I just want to put that out there. I think you were all copied on it. If not, I'll forward it to everybody. I'm entirely in favor of this. I think we should also do a resolution marking Pride Month. And would you fly the flag at Village Hall for the month of June? And I'm very much in favor of that. So can I make a motion that we do that? I don't know how flag issues go.
Well, what I asked, I asked the resident to send a picture of what it would look like and the specs, you know, the size of it, so we would sort of know what this was about. So that just came in before the meeting. So I'll, you know, maybe we can do the resolution the next meeting. I just want everybody to see what it would look like, you know. I think it's a great idea personally, but I just, you know, so people can take a look at it, just see what it is. Dan, you're muted.
In theory, if it looks good and it's the right dimensions, I'd like to propose that we fly it conditionally that it looks good and it's the right dimensions. So I'll make a motion of that.
Okay, sure. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, a vote?
Discussion, please.
Discussion?
Please.
Yes, Lily.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yes, I would like to discuss it because I would like to talk about where the flag would be flown. I would not have any objection to the Gay Pride, of course not, but I didn't know if it would be hanging on the building or if it would be on the front lawn. I would have a very strong opinion regarding anything going on our flagpole in front of the Village Hall besides our American flag. I feel strongly about that. That is the Legion, and they maintain it. And I think that, you know, any other place, you know, if we want to put it in the hallway or on the building, I'd like to discuss its placement, not the fact whether that we're going to fly it or display it. I have no problem with that, but it's where it is displayed that I would like a discussion. And as Mayor Plummer pointed out, I would like to see dimensions, a photo, some sort of indicator of what it looks like first before moving ahead. Thank you.
Great. What's your suggestion?
Excuse me one second. And actually, that's why I wanted to send the picture out so people could see the specs on it. And then we could say, oh, do we hang it as a banner? What does that look like? You know, so I feel the same way Lily does a little bit, that just, you know, take a look at it so we all say, hey, where do we want this to go? Dan, yes, you had a comment.
No, I was just asking what the suggestion was. So, but you answered it, it's fine.
Well, I think it'd be nice. I mean, I didn't really get a chance to look at it too carefully, so, because it had just come in, but it'd be nice hung up as a banner or something.
Yeah, and somebody just posted something comparing an LGBTQ flag to a Nazi flag, and I just don't get that and stand vehemently against it. I don't even want to read that. It's so terrible. Like,
well, let's not.
Yeah, move along. Thank you.
You know, this is about civility and being neighbors. Yes, Justin, your hand's up. Yes.
Yeah, I think that I appreciate this suggestion, and it's a shame that our council has left us. I would just like to get his opinion on whether we are able to, if this sets some kind of a precedent where we're not able to exercise discretion in the future, and if we would be forced to fly flags that we don't want to, and just, you know, the notion of precedent, and if we're able to deliberate over these items regarding flags from other groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I do know, I was just thinking very quickly, Brighton puts flags up, you know, so it would be interesting to see maybe what their policy is. I think you raise a really interesting point. Maybe we need to have a little something in place going forward, you know, putting that out there for the board. Yeah.
started. Yeah, I agree with that. It would be great to see a precedent in terms of other what other boards have done in the area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I want to address that. I don't really care what other municipalities, no disrespect meant. It's just been a long day. I don't really care what other municipalities are doing. I'm talking about what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So what other towns do? Great, good, whatever.
It is about First Amendment. If we choose to fly one flag, what does that mean? I do think that's an important question, just strictly from a legal standpoint, just to get some advice on that. That's all, nothing more than that.
Okay.
I personally just, as an elected official, think that that would be important information for us just going forward as a board. Other than that, I don't have a dog in the fight. So yes, Steve?
Yeah, I just, whatever we do, we got to make sure, however we display or hang something, that it follows the code. So we follow the same rules that we expect everybody else in the village to follow.
Thank you.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. No, appreciate that. Dorothea?
I attended a training last year where this very issue was discussed through NICOM, and there is all kinds of information surrounding it that I can reach out and grab from that training and pass on to the board so they have it. But the overall sense that I got is it's actually a board decision per what flag gets flown, that you do have some rights in determining that.
So it's discretionary.
I believe it is discretionary as long as it meets certain things.
Okay.
So with that offensive comment, I think you have the ability to say no to that. Absolutely. But let me pull, it was a very good class, and I'm sorry, I'm just tired and I can't bring up all the info with it, but I will get you that information.
No, that would be great. So let's just figure this out. So it's the 11th, our next meeting's on the 25th, just to get that information circulated.
Yeah.
And then just bring it right back, Dan. Would that work still? Because we're still a little bit ahead of, just so we get a little more info on it. Something to hang our hat on,
So can we table this? Or do we need to vote because there's a motion on the floor?
We can choose to table the motion, right, Dorothea? We can table it.
I think you can table it.
Yeah. We can
I don't
table
think
it.
you really got complete, well, you sort of did, but I think you can table the vote.
We
Do you
can
want me to
table it.
formally withdraw it?
Sure.
Yeah, maybe that's easier. And then pending information that we're just going to get for the next meeting.
I formally withdraw the nomination. I would like to take a straw poll, though, an unofficial one. Does anybody have any problem, assuming that legally we're allowed to, that we would fly a pride flag in front of?
Oh, yeah, Lily's hands up.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Lily?
Thank you. Yes, I do. And one of those problems is that it was brought to the board without being added to the agenda on Friday for us to look at with nothing in the packet. It was thrown at us last moment. And I think in fairness, to have information that we could have reviewed and had done some research and come prepared, I think that is our policy, and that is the policy that we should have followed. So that we weren't looking at an awkward situation of a motion that was not backed up with the information ahead of time. So for that reason, I would object to it. As far as what our process will be going forward, flying special interest flags, I really do believe that we should have a policy in place because there are so many causes and interests, and certainly many are very worthwhile, and we would want to consider, but we only have room for a certain, so I think we should come up with a timeline. How long will we fly the banner or flag, that is consistently placed, it has a consistent size, so one group's flag is not larger than the next group's flag and denote some sort of importance or to us as a village over another. I think these are all things that need to be thought out and established before we move forward. Thank you.
Okay, so Lily has said no, she wouldn't fly a flag. Justin, would you fly a flag?
Dan, this is not even on the agenda. And
It's a member item. It's a member item. You're allowed to bring up member items. An email came in today. I'm asking about it. So it's yes, no, it's a straw poll. It's not binding. Just trying to get a sense of where you guys stand. If you don't want to answer it, don't answer it.
Sorry, who are you
Renee,
speaking-
where do you stand?
Awkward.
Who are you speaking with? I'm sorry, who are you addressing?
So Renee, where in general, where do you stand?
I'm in support of putting a pride flag up for Pride Month.
I will also.
Justin? Yes,
Sure,
Justin.
I will say that I am also in support of a gay pride flag. I have no problem with that. I just feel like the demand of an answer in this kind of a context is not the way that I would choose to run a board meeting.
I understand. We do it all the time. We do straw polls all the time to try and figure out basically where do people stand on it. Elisa, what do you think?
Well, I've already made my statement. I mean, I support inclusion and diversity, and I think it's,
great.
Supportive.
Wonderful.
I do want to just circle back to what Dorothea said, and I think it's important. She is going to be providing the board members with information from NICOM based on the training session that she went to that addresses this very topic. And she also made note, and I'll circle back to that again, that this is discretionary in terms of what flags the board chooses to fly, to fly publicly. So that ultimately may give us some additional latitude, but we'll review that information and we'll make our determination and come up perhaps with a policy, something moving forward. I think that, it's practical. It's just a practical thing, I think, for our board. Yeah, Lily.
Sounds good.
Yes, I'd like to clarify that Trustee Keating incorrectly quoted me. I did not say that I was against a flag. I was outlining criteria under which I would be interested in adopting for all flags going forward. I did not state that I was against the flag.
Okay.
The gay pride flag. I stated from the very beginning that I was in favor of flag, obviously.
Okay. I misheard you when you said no, I would not be in favor of it.
Okay,
So
thanks. We straightened that out. Thank you, Lily. Steve, you have your hand up, and then we're going to close this out. It's getting late.
The only thing I want to make sure is that we do talk to the veterans out of respect for them also, as they fly their flag in the pole, to make sure they are informed and just, out of respect for the gentlemen that do have the Legion downstairs. Please.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Zach.
Can I just say, if it is approved to fly this flag, that we do find another location besides the flagpole for it. In the event of a half-mast that where we would have to roll the flags to half-mast, I believe that flag would then be dragging on the ground because of the height of the flagpole.
Thank you. No, that's a good point. And I'm sort of thinking if it's a banner, hanging as a banner or something somewhere. I don't know, but we'll look into that. Okay, I'm going to close out this item. It's late. Any other member items? Everybody good? Oh, yes, Lily. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. It's a little dark where you are.
I'm sorry. I will. I apologize. I did briefly state that I attended the HPB meeting last night, as did Mayor Plummer, and there are some, I think there are some interesting things that came out of that meeting that I would like to draw attention of the board at a later date. But I just wanted to let you know that I was there. I'm performing my liaison duty by reporting that to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Lily. And I'm going to be in touch with you about the meeting because I have some thoughts about that as well. Thanks so much for that. Okay. So I think that closes out everything on our agenda. We need to go into an executive session. Is there a motion? I move we go into executive.
Well, before that, did we mention there was a time for the public to talk and questions from the public? Didn't you say that at the beginning?
Yes.
Yes, sorry. It's late. Sorry. Okay. I mean, people have been talking all night and giving comments. Dorothea, do you have any other things that?
There's comments, but I've been trying to answer them. Some are just in support of conversations back and forth. I don't, you know, we can go in if you want to limit America to the American flag, there'll be no issues. But if you open up to any group, could cause divisiveness. We want to maintain neighborliness. People are often eager to pick fights and have a strong opinion about the best groups. That was Ms. Foss. Let's see, there was questions on the opening up. I answered that.
Okay, thank you.
There, let me see here. There was comments about from Ms. Foss about another Eagle Scout project, and apparently something happened with that. And maybe that's something, Lily, you would want to follow up with her offline. A young man was looking to do, I guess, bat boxes or something.
Yes, yes.
Okay. There was comments about the disclosure that Mayor Plummer and Trustee Keating made and concerns with New York State Opens Meetings law. And I think there's a little confusion. I tried to clear it up. It's stating that 2 or more people who conduct a public interest should be notified, public notice. No, it's actually a quorum of the board that requires a public notice. So I'm not sure where that confusion is coming from. So I tried to answer that.
Thank you.
I guess if you want, you could open up to, wow, we still have a lot of people hanging in there.
I know. Slow night in the news. Okay.
Okay. I don't think I missed anything there.
Thank you. Okay. All right. We do have some items to review in executive session relative to personnel. So I make a motion that we move to executive session. Is there a second?
I'll second. Keating?
Discussion?
Oh, discussion, yes.
I believe that the only way that we can move to executive session is not just saying that it's a personnel issue, but we should cite the specific personnel issue. So if this is related to the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person, could we be more specific so the public is aware that we are legitimately entering into an executive session?
Thank you. Thank you for that. And did you memorize that?
Not at all.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for the help on that. So Dorothea, this would fall into which category would you say is
an employment issue, financial employment issue, specific employees. Let me clarify.
Employees. It's more than one.
Okay.
Okay. So that motion is amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Keating?
Oh, Dan, you're muted.
Aye, but there's a question from Sue Emmel that she'd like addressed before we hop into the meeting. You see it's in the chat. She just put it in there.
Oh, I didn't see it.
I did address this.
Oh, you did?
Yes, she must not have seen it. Ms. Emmel is questioning if we will have a nurse taking a public nurse. No, we will not. We will have a staff member taking temperatures. We have a temperature gun. We will be having additional cleaning on the site. Yes, there is a cost to that, but that would be a cost anyway. We are going to be cleaning throughout the day, wiping down door handles. We will all be taking turns with doing that, and no village employee, no staff person will ask anybody if they've been vaccinated or not. That's their private business. We're not going to ask that. We're just asking that everybody be masked.
Right. I mean, you can share if you've been vaccinated if you choose to do so, but we would never ask anybody. Okay. So there was a motion.
This is Dave Marshall. Can I make just a brief comment?
Is it about an agenda item?
In a way, it's a request to have an agenda item for next time to also include the disclosures of the meeting with the DiMarzo. on the next meeting. I don't want to talk about it tonight, but it'd be nice to have a little bit bigger discussion on that at our next meeting and include the disclosures on the next meeting packet as well. I think that'd be great because tonight is not the night.
Sure.
It's in the meeting packet.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
include it in the meeting packet again for the next board meeting.
He's saying just to carry it forward.
Just carry it forward. Yeah, I think that's best.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Dave.
And,
Okay.
and a little bit of homework there. Pull all the meeting notes from the prior administration's one-to-one meetings with the developer. Thanks.
Okay, we have a motion, and we have, it's on the table. It was, Renee, did you second? Who
No, I
seconded?
did.
Lily did, sorry. Okay, it was
Okay.
second. Can we call the vote, please?
Trustee Keating.
Keating, aye.
Trustee Stetser.
Stetser, aye.
Trustee Lightgib.
Lightgib, aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Lanfear, aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Plummer, aye.
Motion
Thank you,
passes.
everybody, for attending the meeting. And now we're going to be going into executive session. Everybody have a great night.
Good night, all.
Nice,
Thanks,
Steve.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Steve.
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, I'm just going to start dismissing.
I'll help you with that.
Kind of like popping bubbles. They go.